Hello and welcome to Byju's Exam Prep IAS. Very warm good evening to everyone. I hope all of you are doing good. Beginning of a new week. It's Monday and we are back again with our next class of internal security. This is class number 3. We'll wait for a couple of minutes. Let everyone join in the class and then we will begin. Thank you so much. Good evening everyone. Good evening Arna, good evening Priyadashni, hello Bhagya, good evening Muni, good evening Karthik, hello Parveen, hello Saksham, hello Vardhanjali, good evening Nancy, hello Sandeep, Golapalli, good evening. Hello, Jiva. Hi, Sandeep. Hi, Menam. Hello, Kriti, Rajashri. Good evening. Hello, Nantani. Hi, Roshan, Rushikesh, Anushka, Prem. Good evening. Hi, Satyapal. Hello, Meshak. Hello, Bhimrai. Hello, Kumari. Good evening. Hello, Gunjan. Hi, Shiva. Hi, Sakshi. Sure, Ankush, I'll explain this in a bit. Let everyone join and then we'll discuss that. Kavya, the pending ones will be checked this week. So most of the pending ones you should get this week. Hello Suomo, good evening. Hi Ritika. Hello Gadi, good evening. Good evening Chandrakant, good evening Namrata, good evening. Hi Divya, hi Anum. Hi Pablo, Nandini, good evening Nancy, Nikita. Hello. I'm seeing a few new names. Maybe I'm seeing the names for the first time, or maybe you are attending the class for the first time. So, just in case there is anyone who did not attend the previous two classes of internal security, the ones that we had on Thursday and Friday, please make sure you see the recorded version of it so that you are up to date and whatever is being discussed. uh, Vardhanji, terrorism, we started just a bit on Friday, but we will go back and revise whatever we discussed. Okay, so here are a few questions coming in about whatever we have discussed. So let me quickly take up those questions. So Ankush had a question first. What is the concept of internally aided external threat? So Ankush, external threat means Pakistan, China. Aided internally means someone from within India helping them in return for money, in return for any gifts, etc. So when someone internal within your country helps your outside enemy, that is called external threat, which is internally aided. Kavya, I'll get back to you on that. I'll just confirm from the team if something like this has happened. I'll get back to you. Then Pavitra is saying the simple meaning of left wing extremism. Pavitra, simple meaning of left wing extremism. People who believe in left ideology means people who believe in the overthrow of the government by the use of violence. People who believe in the power being divided, power being given in the hands of the common people. People who believe in setting up a new social structure that is called left wing extremism. Hello, Arshada. Good evening. Uh, Vardhanjali, it really depends. You can stick around in the class, don't worry. But yes, when you do get the time, do see the recorded version of the earlier two classes. Sharmila, can you please refresh? It's fine at our end. Okay, then. Okay, so a lot of you have joined in, and I hope your preparation is going on well. And I'll just repeat what I said in the beginning. If you are new in the sense that this is class number 3 of internal security, if for any reason you did not attend the first two classes, any of the two classes, or you missed any part of it, please make sure that you do see the recorded version that will be available, either the complete version or whatever part that you had missed. It will really help you to be on track and in line with everyone else as well. So, we are now coming on to a topic that we had started a bit on Friday. If you remember on Friday, in the last half an hour or so, we did discuss a bit about terrorism and we will revise that. So don't worry. The last half an hour of last class, we will revise that. what we studied about terrorism, and then we'll pick it up from there. Now, we started a discussion about how India's internal security, the terror issues that we face in India, are a function of a lot of factors. One of the factors that India faces, which is not really in our control, is our location. I showed you this photo. There are two major drug producing areas on either side of India. On the east side of India, you have an area called the Golden Triangle. Golden Triangle here consists of Burma, that is today's Myanmar, there is Vietnam, there is Laos, and there is Thailand. These four countries together make up what you call as a Golden Triangle. Then towards the west side of India, we have an area called the Golden Crescent, which is made up of three countries: Iran, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. These two are major drug producing, opium producing areas in the world. These are the areas which produce a lot of drug. In fact, their economy also depends heavily on drug. Have you ever thought of how Taliban earns money? They don't really have any economic activities in Afghanistan. How do they get money if they want to import something? For example, if Taliban or Afghanistan has to import oil, has to import gas, has to import energy, has to import vegetable fruit, so where do they get the money for importing that? Most of it is because of the illegal opium trade, the illegal drug trade that they have. Now, India, being stuck in the middle of it, has to pay the price. I discussed this on Friday as well, how our ex Prime Minister, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, famously said this: you can choose your friends, but you cannot choose your neighbors. So India is stuck in between this area, and that is why we have all these sorts of issues. Then we also started a discussion about how there has been conflict of different types in India. There are different types of terror activities. Unfortunately, even small kids in India are very well aware of the word terrorism, are very well aware of the activities that are associated with it. We discussed how there are mainly four types of threats that a country faces. This is what Kautilya had written in Arthashastra. As per Kautilya, these are the four types of threats: internal threat, for example, Naxalism; external threat at the border, China, Pakistan, etc. Externally aided internal means the internal enemy that is getting the help from external countries, or internally aided external. Our external enemies like China, Pakistan, who are getting the help from some internal sources here. As per Kautilya in his Arthashastra, he said that the internal threat or enemy that is within the country is by far the most dangerous of all. Then we discussed the concept of the foreign hand. We discussed how in India, politicians for many years, for most of the activities which disrupt the law and order, the first reaction is always to blame the foreign hand. That is an outside interference in the country's law and order. This started at the time of Indira Gandhi. Not just terrorism. In fact, at the time of Indira Gandhi, whenever there was any failure of the government, even her own election, whenever she lost an election, whenever she thought that something wrong is happening, whenever she had to blame someone, her first go to reason to everyone was there is foreign hand involved here. There is a foreign entity that is coming in, there is a foreign entity who is actually making sure that India is disrupted. So, this concept of the foreign hand emerged then. We also discussed how this is not really far from the truth. Every country, in their own national interest, in their own self-interest, do carry out some secretive activities. Almost every big country around the world had their own secret service agency, had their own information bureaus. You have, for India, you have RAW and IB. The main responsibility of these organizations is this only: to make sure that we can predict any threat to India's security and sovereignty, and also to make sure that our own national interests are never compromised. We also discussed the curious case of Baluchistan, and in Pakistan, there's a province called Baluchistan, which has very often protest against the government of Pakistan. They have been demanding separation from Pakistan for a long, long time. There are a lot of news and articles that say that India has a connection to Baluchistan. Baluch leaders also speak very highly of India. Indian leaders also speak very highly of Baluchistan. So the concept of this foreign hand, that means an outside country, interfering in your internal matters is not something that is new. It has been going on for a very, very, very long time, and it exists in today's modern politics as well. Then we also discussed how 9/11 attacks, that is the World Trade Center attack in the US, changed the world. How before that, countries such as US and European countries were living in that bubble where they thought that terror activities cannot come to them, where they thought that they are free from all these terror activities. It was only after the World Trade Center attack that America also realized that even if they are far away, it doesn't matter how powerful they are, terror activities can still strike them. Since then, we have been seeing a very active role of Western countries going into other countries, launching some missions in the name of cleaning out terror. We have seen them coming in and attacking Iraq, we have seen them coming in and attacking Afghanistan, so on and so forth. All of this we had discussed the last time around. This is where we had left. So this is where we had left. This much we had discussed on Friday about terrorism. Radhika is saying, can foreign hand be a foreign independent organization or is it just a country? Radhika, no, no, it's not. It's not necessarily a country. In fact, for example, in case of India, we made time and time again blame Pakistan that Pakistan is doing this. Pakistan never accepts this. Pakistan says that the groups that may be attacking you are independent groups. We don't have any connection with that. So usually the governments, any government around the world will never accept the responsibility. They will never say that we are the ones who are behind these kind of attacks. The governments of any country will always take a step back and say that these are not our groups. They may be independently working, but these are not our groups. So Shruti saying we are only learning about left wing extremism. Does that mean we have no threat from right wing extremism? No. So Shruti, that means UPSC does not have right wing extremism in their syllabus. So that is what it means. It doesn't mean that there's no threat. It means that UPSC has asked us to read left wing. That's why we are reading the left wing thing. Uh, Pavitra, we have discussed in detail about Naxalism and the ways to stop it. You can revise that there. One last question from Ankush. Why Maoism is banned and not Marxist? Ankush, see, it's not really about what is banned and what is not banned. Don't go on the name of the organization. The government does not ban the organization on the basis of the name. The government looks into what are the activities performed by these organizations. If there are organizations which are indulging in violence against the government, then they will ban it. Doesn't matter if the name is Maoist or Marxist or Ankush, whatever the name is, they will ban it. So don't get lost in the name as such. That why is it that they have banned Maoist organization, not the Marxist? Whatever comes in, they will ban if it is harming the Indian integrity. Shweta saying only extremism and terrorism is left wing extremism. No, Shweta. LWE is left wing extremism. Full stop. So extremism that is dependent on the left ideology. That is it. Okay, then let's resume from where we had left. This is the slide that we had last discussed. Now, the terror activities that we see around the world, let's understand that the fact that there are different types of terror activities that we see. There are terror activities that are used as a way to fight a war. An example is Hamas and Hezbollah using it mainly against Israel. Second, there are terror activities that are used in the name of religion, the one that ISIS or Islamic State has been using it. And the third ones, which is used mainly by Pakistan, that is as a geopolitical asset. Now, there are different types in which terrorism is used. Now, please understand, for your examination point of view, from internal security point of view, the UPSC will not ask you what happened in Israel, what is the issue between Israel and Hamas or Israel and Hezbollah. That is not a part of our syllabus. We are focusing on India's internal security. We are giving these examples just to make you understand that yes, there are different types of terrorism that exist all around the world. So, for example, let me give you a very brief background about what these are so that you at least know. Now, you all would have been reading about the Israel and Hamas issue. Israel continuously bombing the Gaza area, saying that we will eliminate Hamas entirely. Then you would have also heard of this word called Hezbollah. Now, what exactly is this issue? What is the issue here? So, again, I'll give you a very brief idea because this is not really a part of our syllabus. So, if you actually see this map, this is what Israel is. So, this entire part is Israeli. Okay. Now, if you see Israel, back around First World War, there was no country called Israel. There was no country called Israel. There was actually a country called Palestine. So Israel as such did not exist. There was a country called Palestine. Now, the reason why Israel came into being was very simple. The Jewish people in Europe were persecuted, they were killed in lakhs and lakhs. Hitler killed a lot of Jews. Even before Hitler, Jews had been a community that have been blamed for a lot of things that they're not responsible for. Jews have usually always been the rich class, they have always been the business class, they have always been the influential people. So they do have a lot of power within the country wherever they are, even though they are usually in minority. When in between the First and Second World War, the Jewish community faced so much violence, they demanded that we want a country of our own. We want a country where we should be in majority. Since the Jewish people were very influential, they used to donate a lot of money to political parties, they used to donate money to governments, they were the one who ran big businesses. So what happened as a result was UK, British government accepted their plan or accepted their demand, and they gave something called the Balfour Declaration. Balfour Declaration. Balfour was the Secretary of State for UK. So he gave a declaration that after the war, we will have a homeland for the Jewish people. Once the war is over, we will set up a homeland, we'll give a country. Palestine was a country here that was ruled by the British. So British said that okay, we will divide this country half and half. Half of it will remain Palestine and half of it Israel will be created. So that is how the story started. But again, over the years, over the decade, what Israel has done, Israel has expanded itself. So from being given a part of it, Israel has expanded, expanded, expanded to such an extent that now there are only two areas that you can call as Palestine. The two areas that you can call Palestine is number one, this area, this green area, this is called the Gaza Strip. And the second area is this is what you call as the West Bank. So this is a very short brief history of Israel because we don't have to go into detail of it. Now, what has happened is ever since Israel has been formed, obviously there has been a lot of protests in that area. People from Palestine have been demanding that no, we want to recapture the country. And then there are the other countries in the neighborhood that are sympathetic towards Palestine and they want to fight for Palestine. So over here, over here, there are two important groups that you must know about that you keep on hearing in the news time and time again: Hamas and Hezbollah. So, no, Israel is not an Islamic country, Israel is a Jewish country. So, two groups that you must know about: Hamas and Hezbollah. Now, what is Hamas? Hamas is the official government of the Gaza Strip. So, in Gaza Strip, when the last elections were held, people majorly chose Hamas. So Hamas is the official government of Gaza Strip. So they have been chosen by the people. In fact, this is why Israel is saying that we have to attack Gaza Strip. Israel says that the people of Gaza Strip themselves chose Hamas. They gave vote to Hamas and then Hamas conducted this violence on us, so we have to take revenge. Now, Hamas, as I said, this is again the official government of Gaza Strip. They are the ones who rule there. Now, what is Hezbollah? Hezbollah is a separate group altogether. It is, in fact, a political party in Lebanon. So, there is one more actor in this play here, that is Lebanon. So, this is Lebanon towards the north of Israel. In Lebanon, there's a political party called Hezbollah. What is it? Hezbollah is a party that gets a lot of support from Iran. Both of them basically run on the support from Iran. Iran gives them a lot of money. Hezbollah is an official party to such an extent that they fight elections in Lebanon. In fact, they have many seats in the Lebanon parliament. So in Lebanon parliament, there are seats that are with Hezbollah. Hezbollah is a unique political party in the sense that despite being a political party, they have their own military. So Hezbollah has their own military also. So they also conduct attacks on Israel because they also want Israel to go away, to not exist, and they also want Palestine to come back. So again, this Israel issue, etc., is not a part of our syllabus. So that is why we are not going to detail of it. The reason why I'm telling you the broad facts here is to make you understand the use of violence or the use of terrorism by these groups. Hamas, Hezbollah, they are using terrorism against Israel, not in the name of religion as such, not in the name of, let's say, some other ideology. It is in the name or it is with the objective of bringing back Palestine as a country, of forcing the Israeli out, fearing the Israeli people, making sure that Israel doesn't exist. That is what their objective of terrorism is. So, not all objectives of terrorism are the same. For Hamas and Hezbollah, it is a warfare tactic that they are using it as a war against Israel. Again, it is not essentially in the name of religion. Please understand. Because Israel also has a minority Muslim population, and that minority Muslim population also works in the Israeli government. They also work in the Israeli military. So it's not essentially in the name of religion, it is essentially a warfare tactic. Then terrorism is also used in the name of religion or as a religious tool. That is what ISIS or Islamic State does, where they commit acts of violence and they demand that we want to set up our own religious law here. So, when you want to set up your own religious identity, when you want to make sure that whatever kind of religion that you believe in is followed in your world, is followed in this area, that is when you have terrorism in the name of religion. Now, again, religious terrorism is not new. This is not something that's new. Hitler did it to a very large extent. Adolf Hitler was the person behind the Holocaust. Have you all heard of Holocaust? I hope all of you have. Radhika, yes. Hamas is also officially a political party only. The world calls it a terror organization, but inside Gaza State, they are an official political party only. Okay. So those who have heard about Holocaust, great. Those who have not heard of it, I'll just tell you what this is. Imagine Germany of after World War One. When the World War One had ended, Germany had lost the war. There was huge fine imposed on Germany. The reason is when you lose the war, and it happened in both the world wars, World War One, World War Two. When you lose the war, the side that won will impose fine and penalty on you. They will call it reparations. Reparations. Reparations means cost of the war. It's kind of a punishment that why did you start the war? Because of you, we had a lot of damage, so now you have to pay us money. So a lot of reparations were imposed on Germany. Billions and billions of dollars had to be repaid. Germany did not have any money. They themselves were destroyed. So Germany, in between the two world wars, was going through a very, very, very hard time. They thought we'll print our own money. So they started printing their own money, but they then realized there is something called inflation also. Their value of currency became worthless. It was so worthless that in Germany, when the people had to buy a loaf of bread, rather than taking some money in the wallet, people had to load all the currency notes in their car and then they had to go to a shop to buy bread. That is the possibility that you have when you print so much currency, the currency loses value. Anyways, so Germany was going through a tough time, and this is when Adolf Hitler came to power. Adolf Hitler had one simple idea, had one simple promise to everyone in Germany. His only promise was vote for me, follow my instructions, and I will take Germany back to its glory days. That was his only promise. If you want Germany to go back to the glory days, vote for me, and I will make sure we go back to it. People were happy. People voted for Hitler. Hitler became the chancellor. Hitler wanted to take revenge. The first revenge he took was internally from the Jewish people. Hitler had this idea that for Germany to be in this bad situation, the reason is the Jewish people. Hitler kept on saying it is the Jewish people, it is the Jews that are responsible for all our problems. There was no proof in that. But he kept on saying that the Jewish people are so rich, that is why we don't have any money. They have taken up all the money of the country. We are so poor because of them. So Hitler started this propaganda that I will kill the Jewish people. In the Second World War, whichever country Germany occupied, now if you have read Second World War in history, you all know Hitler occupied a lot of European countries. Even half of France was occupied by Germany at one point of time. Wherever Hitler went, he collected all the Jewish people and he killed them. How did he kill them? By many ways. He used to send them in these big halls, close the door, close the window, and poisonous gas was let in that room. Lakhs and lakhs of people were killed single handedly by Adolf Hitler. Lakhs and lakhs of Jewish people. That was called the Holocaust. That was called the Holocaust. Holocaust is considered as the darkest period in the history of the Jewish community. It was a period when Hitler killed lakhs and lakhs of Jews. So, again, coming back, this is again an example that religious terrorism is not something that we are seeing right now. Religious terrorism has had a past. There have been multiple instances of religious terrorism. It's not something that we have just today. Pavitra, Jewish people, Jew is a religion. The Jewish people or the Jewish community, it's a religion, Judaism basically. Like Christianity, Judaism is a religion. Then, one other interesting way in which terror is used is what happened with Taliban and how Pakistan wanted to use it. Now, the history of Taliban also is very interesting. How Pakistan has been trying to use it, that is also a very different way in which terror is used. Let me give you a simple story here. 1970s, Afghanistan was turning into a communist country. In 1970s, Afghanistan thought being a communist country will be beneficial for them. They were under the influence of USSR. People of Afghanistan did not like it. People of Afghanistan threw their own government out, said that we don't want any kind of communism here. When Soviet Union saw that communism is going away in Afghanistan, Soviet Union sent its army to Afghanistan. So it was in the end of the 1970s. In the end of 1970s, we had the Soviet Union army coming into Afghanistan. This is something America did not like. America did not want Soviet Union to capture Afghanistan. It was year of the Cold War. So America wanted to fight back. How did they fight back? America and Pakistan teamed up together. America and Pakistan created a new organization called Taliban. Taliban was a creation of US and Pakistan. Now, Taliban, the word basically means student. So there were some Afghanistan students who used to study in Pakistan. They were chosen for this task. They were the ones who were given training, weapons by America. They were given high tech American weapons to fight against the Soviet Union. Taliban was successful and Taliban forced the Soviet Union out of Afghanistan. Now, when Taliban defeated Soviet Union, there are multiple ways to look at it. Some people said it is a victory of Taliban. That is one way to look at it. Second way to see was it was a victory of the Americans because Americans gave them money, Americans gave them weapons. It was the American effort. But Pakistan saw this as a victory of Pakistan. Pakistan did not see this as a victory of America, as a victory of Afghanistan. No. For Pakistan, they thought they are the ones who are so powerful now that their force, the force that they created, has defeated Soviet Union. So Pakistan thought that now there is no end to us, our power. In fact, this is when Pakistan started their policy of terror towards India. Please understand, before 1980s, yes, there was trade in India-Pakistan relation before that as well. But before 1980s, we did not have people illegally coming in from Pakistan. We did not have a lot of people from Pakistan being given terror training to come to India. All that phenomena started only in 1980s and later on. Before 1980 till the mid 1980s, we did not have that phenomena. In fact, many of you might not know this, till 1985, till 1985, Pakistan's per capita income was 60% more than India. Till 1985, if an Indian earned 100 rupees on an average Pakistani earned 160 rupees. So till 1985, in fact, Pakistan's economic situation was much better than India. It was progressing much better than India. India's progress only fastened, or India's progress only began after 1991 reforms. Before that, Pakistan was progressing much better than India. They had much better investment, they had much better infrastructure. Two things happened in 1980s end. One, India started thinking of the LPG reforms, and second, Pakistan thought that they have become so powerful now with the creation of Taliban. They thought that they will now be able to do whatever they want, and they thought that now we will train people to interfere in India as well. So that is again a kind of terrorism that we see. First kind of terrorism when it's used as a war by Hamas and Hezbollah. Second kind of terrorism when it's used in the name of religion, like ISIS and Hitler did. And third, that Pakistan uses as a geopolitical asset when they use terrorism or terror group to get their own objective achieved. If Pakistan's objective was to capture Kashmir or to capture territory of India, they tried to do it with the help of a terror group, trying to train them, trying to give them weapons, trying to influence them. And the irony is, the irony is today, most of the terror attacks in Pakistan are conducted by a group called Tehreek-e-Taliban. The same Taliban that Pakistan thought that they had created, the same Taliban that Pakistan thought that they will be able to control, the same Taliban is now attacking and killing thousands of people in Pakistan. Hillary Clinton, when she was the American Secretary of State, Barack Obama was the Prime Minister. Hillary Clinton had come to Pakistan. She gave a press conference. She famously said on live television, a press conference in Pakistan, if you have snakes in your backyard, please don't expect they will only bite your neighbors. If you have snakes in your backyard, they will bite you also. This is something that Pakistan has realized very recently now. Their assumption was that because they were the ones who created Taliban, they can control it in whatever way that they want. And now the same Taliban is killing so many people in Pakistan that the government just can't control that situation. These are different types of terrorism that we see around the entire world. Now, there are some other words also that you keep on hearing related to India's internal security. Not just terrorism, there is a word called insurrection and there's a word called insurgency. Now, in India, we usually hear these two words. We hear a lot about insurgency, we hear a lot about terrorism. We don't hear a lot about insurrection as such. Insurrection is not a word that we're very familiar with. Now, terrorism, as we discussed, so there is a stark difference between the three. Let's first see terrorism. In simple terms, anyone who commits a terror attack or who commits a terror act is not really doing this to remove the government. Terrorism is mostly about imposing your ideology. It is mostly about imposing your ideology. It can be religious ideology, that you want that your religion should be the only one followed in the country. It's more about instilling fear in the common people. Terrorism is not about overthrow of the government. They don't really care about what government it is. Their demand has never been that we'll overthrow the government or we will come to power. No. Their demand has never been like that, that we will come to power. Insurgency is usually seen when you want a separate country or when you want a separate state, when you want a division of country. For example, look at the northeast part of India, and we'll discuss this in later classes. Look at the northeast part of India, there have been many insurgent movements. In Nagaland, there's a long history of insurgency. There have been multiple groups in Nagaland that have demanded that we want to have a separate country of our own. So, insurgency is usually seen when people start demanding that we want a separate area of our own. They don't want to overthrow the entire country's government. Insurgents never say, oh, we want an entire country or entire government to be removed, we will rule the country. No, they never say that. It is very small area specific. So it's confined to a small area. We are seeing this in northeast part of the country mainly. Then insurrection is not something that we see in India. Insurrection means overthrowing the government. When you want to overthrow an elected government, that is called insurrection. When you want to overthrow the government. Interestingly, this was seen in the US, and I'll just show you in a bit. Insurrection basically would be when you want the elected government to be overthrown. Now, in India, we are most familiar with the word terrorism. There have been multiple terror attacks that we have seen, unfortunately. India has also tried to introduce many laws against terrorism. Some of the laws, for example, the major anti terror law that we have in India today is the UAPA. UAPA is Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. UAPA is Unlawful Activities Prevention Act 1967. This is India's primary anti terror law. This is the law that has provisions against terrorism, anyone who lunges at terrorism. India has also had a history of passing some laws that have been too tough. For example, there was a law passed by the government called POTA 2002. It was prevention of terrorist activities. It was so tough that it was removed in 2004. It was removed in 2004 because it was felt that the government is giving too much powers in the hands of the police. Government was given too much powers in the hand of the security forces. Anyone who was arrested, even on the charges of suspicion, would never get a bail. It gave too much powers. Now, again, India has had a long history of dealing with terrorism. The good part is, if you see in the past decade and a half or so, we have been able to curtail the terror attacks considerably well. Now, there are various reasons. We'll discuss those reasons as well. But there has been a stark decline in the number of terror activities. Insurgency, as I said, insurgency is about capturing a certain territory. Insurgency is mostly about capturing a certain territory, that we want to carve out this territory from you. We want this to be our own government. We want this to be our own territory. We will not have the rule of the government here. That is called insurgency. Usually, we see this in the northeast part of the country. This is in our next chapter. There has been a long history of insurgent movements. Nagaland, Mizoram, Manipur also to a certain extent. There have been long insurgent movements where the idea is that we want to take up a part of your territory and we want to ensure that we are ruling over it. Now, this is again something that is usually seen in India in a very, very large extent, mainly again, as I said, in the northeast part of the country. Also, you can also call the Naxal activities, or you can bring Naxalism into the category of insurgency as well. Because a lot of Naxal leaders set up their own parallel government. We have discussed this earlier as well, how in Naxalism, many Naxal leaders try to set up their own parallel government, try to make the people believe that no government exists but them. Then we also have something called, I'm sorry, we also have something called insurrection. Now, insurrection is something that we do not really see in India. Ashe, parallel government is setting up a government by some people in an area and claiming that we are the real government. The government does not exist. Insurrection is an attempt that we have not really seen in India. Now, I'll give you an example of India's history. When Indira Gandhi imposed emergency, and I'm sure all of you have read about this in Indian polity, when Indira Gandhi imposed emergency, that was a time when Indira Gandhi had made this excuse that people want to overthrow her government. If you remember emergency and why it was imposed, Indira Gandhi had said that people are forcing or they are influencing the military not to listen to the government's orders. They are trying to overthrow my government, so I have to impose emergency. But apart from that, in India's elected history, we have not had an example of insurrection. I'll give you another example. Have you heard of something called Operation Cactus? These days, you might have heard of it. Did you hear of recently Operation Cactus? What is it? Those who are saying yes, what is it exactly? Okay. So those who know it, great. Those who don't know it, no issues. Operation Cactus, again, it was discussed a lot. Operation Cactus in 1980s, 1988 specifically, there were a group of people who wanted to overthrow the Maldives government. The entire Maldives government was under attack, and only a handful of militants, not a large army, handful of militants came from Sri Lanka on this old boat, came to Maldives, tried to take over the government offices, tried to kidnap the president so that they can overthrow the government. That would have been an insurrection. When you overthrow the government, that's an insurrection. The Maldivian president asked for India's help. Rajiv Gandhi was the prime minister. Our security forces were sent immediately. It was called Operation Cactus, under which we held Maldives fight against these people who had come. So, again, that's an example of insurrection. In India's history, thankfully, we have never had that situation where you say that we have to deal with an insurrection. Now, in India's history, again, insurgency and terrorism are related to each other. Both of these use violence. Both of these are something that India is familiar with. The major difference, as I said, is in insurgency, set up their own government, take away a certain area. So insurgency has an end goal. End goal is to take away the territory. Terrorism does not really say that we want to take away territory. It is more about installing your ideology, making the people fearful, making the people uncertain about what will happen next, what can happen now, what may not happen. That is the big difference between terrorism and insurgents. Guys, one more thing. I have said this earlier as well, and I'll say this once again. Uh, if you are asking some questions, try and ask them in the doubt section, so the SME will see this on a priority. If you ask them in the doubt section, there's a higher chance of you getting the answers quicker as compared to in the normal chat. So do try that out. Also, as I said, terrorism or terrorists don't really seek any territorial control. They come, they commit terror attacks, and they go out. It's not that they are specifically stuck to a territory. For them, it's more about spreading their ideology. Also, insurgents want to create a paraphernalia. Paraphernalia means kind of false impression. Insurgents want to create a false impression that they are the ones who are controlling the territory. Like in Naxals. In Naxal areas, we discussed the other day when we were discussing Naxalism. The Naxal leaders want to have an impression, want to tell the people that, see, we are the ones who are controlling this territory. The government is not controlling it. So that the people fear the terror, the people fear the Naxal leaders, the people don't trust the government. Also, insurgents want to form a parallel government, as I told you, like a government structure. Parallel government means the insurgents or the Naxalites will say that we are the leaders here. I am the one who is your prime minister. I am the one who is your president. I am the one who will take the decisions. I am the one you have to follow. So they also try to follow a proper government structure so that the people start believing in them. Insurgents work on a regular basis in specific area of operation. Terrorists attack here and there, then they go away, then they come back. Both of these are things that India is unfortunately very familiar with. The one thing we are not familiar with is insurrection. Now, what is insurrection? Let me first show you a photo and then come back. Anyone who is familiar with this photo and what is happening here? Anyone who is familiar with this photo and knows what is happening? Anyone? Don't go, image you can't go anyway. Okay. Anyone? Okay, I'll tell you what this is. Some people know this. Arnav, Karthik. You can see Trump written here. So this is a big giveaway. Yes, Hema, perfect, perfect. Many people are right. Jagmandu, not, no, 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 guys, wait. It's not protest against Trump. It's not protest against Trump. It's protest in favor of Trump. So basically, in America, this is famously called, in America, this is famously called as a January 6th attack or as a January 6th riots. This is what it is famously called as the January 6th riots in America. Now, what happened? What exactly is this? This is the Capitol. This is the Capitol. Basically, it's the Parliament building, the big Parliament building of the US. So, what happened was in America, elections were conducted before this. The president elections, the result was Trump had lost the election and Joe Biden had won the election. But what happened was Donald Trump, after losing the elections, he kept on giving speeches that there has been some kind of a fraud, He kept on saying that no, there is a fraud. I don't believe I have lost. He even went to an extent to saying that I will not leave the White House. He said, I will stay here. I don't believe the election results. And he has a very huge following in America, even today, no matter what you call him. But he has a huge following in America. Many people, lakhs of people believed him. He said that everyone who believes me should come here to the capital and should attack the capital. So this is the January 6th riots where thousands of people, as you can see in the photo, came and they basically captured the entire parliament building. The entire parliament had to be removed, or the entire members of the parliament had to go away. It was dangerous. They had weapons. They broke in. Many of them were arrested also. There is investigation still going on Donald Trump also. Investigation is still going on. This was a example of insurrection where the people tried to overthrow an elected government, where the people did not say we will take away a part of the territory. No, where they tried to overthrow the entire government. Asha, the name of the building is Capital, Capitol, Capital. So this is the government that this is a example of insurrection attempt when they try to overtake the government by the use of force, saying that we will be the one who will live here, who will win, and Trump should be the one who should be president. In fact, in America, even today, now you might laugh at it or whatever you want to do, even today, there are people in America, Trump supporters, who, if you talk to, when the journalists talk to them, they will say secretly, even today, Donald Trump is the president. Just that he's doing this in secret. Secretly, he is the one who's running the military. Secretly, he is the one who is running the entire country. He is still the president, just that he does not live in the White House. So again, there are these kind of people everywhere. Anyway, this is the example of insurrection. Thankfully, we have not seen this in India so far. Insurrection is about basically large range of issues. It's mostly about removing the government altogether. Also, one more comparative point here. In insurrection, you might have a scope of negotiation, consultation. You might try to consult with the people, negotiate with the people. You might try to argue with them. You might try to put some sense into them. You might try to convince them, see what you're thinking is wrong, the other way, say other way is right. In case of terrorism, there is no point of negotiation. You can't expect the government of India saying that, oh, we will have a one-to-one talk with Taliban. Or not Taliban, but let's say Lashkar-e-Taiba. You cannot expect the government to say we'll have one-on-one talk with Al Qaeda. So with terrorism, usually we do not expect any negotiation, any peace talks. With insurrection, we might explore that option for a bit in the beginning. This is the infographic for you to revise different types of terrorism that we have. Again, terrorism is a very, very broad word. Use of force, intention of hurting someone, in simple terms, will be called as terrorism. So, terrorism does not have to have any one specific definition. Anyone who uses force with the intention of killing someone, hurting someone in large numbers, will be considered as a terror activity. This is also, again, amongst terrorism also, there are different types. There are different terror groups that compete with each other. There are different terror groups that are competing for different territory. There are different terror groups that are competing for each other's territory at the top. So again, this is how terrorism usually works. Anyways, before we go ahead with terror funding, let me see if you have some questions. I'm giving you a few minutes to ask whatever questions you want, and then we'll go ahead. Ankush Singh, Bihar, Jharkhand divisions due to insurgency movement by tribals. No, Ankush, Bihar, Jharkhand movement is not due to insurgency movement. The demand for Jharkhand has been a very, very old demand since our independence. Uh, Dwaipayan is saying, in whom hand is the real administration power of Pakistan government or Pakistan army or their terrorists? Dwaipayan, do you really expect me to know the answer? If I know the answer, then I should have been the one ruling over Pakistan. So we can only tell you what we read in the reports. In the reports, it is the Pakistani army that controls the government also and that controls the terrorist also. Soma is saying, does insurrection require external enemy, internal enemy? It can be anyone. Soma, you can. In America, it did not require any external enemy. People tried to overthrow their own government. In case of Maldives, it was an external enemy. Terrorists from Sri Lanka came in, tried to overthrow them. Jaswant is saying, India held Bangladesh in 1971. Is this an example of insurrection? Interesting way to put this. Just one, maybe if you are preparing for Pakistan UPSC exam, in their syllabus they will tell you yes, this is insurrection, but India did. But in our syllabus, no. In our syllabus, no. We are just helping them. Garima, this is your slide. Nancy, ISIS is a terror organization. That's it. What else do you want to know about it? That is good enough. Srilata is saying Sri Lanka is such an example of insurrection against Rajapaksa. Yes, you can say that. Just that in the end, the Rajapaksa brothers resigned themselves. So insurrection would not be people resigning themselves. It would be when you're forced out. Then uh, Jagbandhu is saying Balakot strike against terrorism. Jagbandhu's specific instances are not important. Balakot airstrike was an airstrike conducted by the Indian Air Force in Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Guys, please do not ask about specific instances. That what happened on this day, what happened in that terror attack, what happened in that terror attack. That is not important. Uni saying is POTA like AFSPA? No. Uni POTA was a different type of a law. AFSPA is a different law. AFSPA is a law which gives a lot of power to armed forces to govern in that area. POTA is a law that talked about how will the people be arrested, what charges will be imposed on them, etc. Bhimra is saying if terrorists not want to overthrow the government, then how Taliban overthrow Afghanistan government. Bhimra, what I meant was terrorists don't want to overthrow other countries' government. Okay, what happened within Afghanistan? Taliban never calls themselves as a terror organization. For Taliban, they are the government. Lagima is saying, what is military coup in Myanmar? Lagima, military coup in Myanmar is Myanmar military overthrowing their own government and coming to power. That is it. Ritika, insurrection can be internal or external, both. Pyle is saying Kashmir before Article 370 was taken away had a different government. Can we call insurgency or not? No, 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 Pyle. When I say different government, that's not how it has to be understood. In that manner, you can say UP has a different government, center government has a different government. So every 5 years, do we have an insurrection? If after 5 years elections happen and with election the government changes, would you call it insurrection? In 2014 was an insurrection? No, there was not an insurrection in 2014. Insurrection is illegal overthrow of the government by force. What happened as per the law is not insurrection. Sakshi, and military overthrow can also be called as insurrection. So, see, narco terrorism means terrorism that is because of drug trafficking, illegal drug supply with the use of narcotics. Guys, I think you can stop answering. You can stop asking questions now. It will be too much. Let me quickly resolve the ones that have already been asked, and then we should go ahead. Uh, then Ankush is saying, how can countries fight amongst themselves politically nowadays in the presence of UN rules and regulations? Ankush, I have no idea what you mean to ask. If you're asking why is the UN not able to stop the countries, that's because UN does not have any power to stop them. Prem, Taliban in Afghanistan can be called insurrection. You can if you want to. Guys, again, please stop asking more questions. It will only elongate it because it's now getting repetitive. Please stop it. Let me quickly wrap up these questions, then we'll go ahead and I'll take the question later on as well. Only saying is control of Taliban. Guys, Taliban Afghanistan question has been asked multiple times. Aryan is saying why insurrection is not possible in India. Aryan, I never said it's not possible in India. I said it has never been done in India. It's not possible in India. See, nothing is impossible. Let's hope it doesn't happen. But I'm just saying it has not been done in India. Kumari is saying is insurrection can be done by people only. If not people, then who else? I doubt animals will be able to do insurrection or technology or robots. I don't know what else. What other option do we have? If not by people, who else will do insurrection? Gunjan, can we please stick to whatever being taught in the class and not ask random questions and random facts? That will be better for you and for me also. Okay. Sapna is saying, what time is going on the world like in India has Amrit Kal? Guys, I'm not that intelligent to answer such questions. Let's go ahead. Okay? Let's go ahead. When I reach that level where I will be able to answer such questions also at a spiritually higher level, I'll be able to answer this. If India has Amrit Kal, what other countries have? I don't know. Other countries are not following Hindi, so they don't even know what Amrit Kal is. They have their own version of it. Let's go ahead then. Now, one of the most important parts about terrorism. Now, so far, whatever we have studied, we do not see a lot of questions from specifically insurrection versus terrorism versus insurgency definition. From whatever we have studied so far, the questions mostly are either about India's location in between Golden Triangle and Golden Crescent. That's a one major topic from where you do see questions time and time again. The other part from where we see very common, very frequent questions is this topic, terror funding. Terror funding or terror financing. Please do pay attention. It's an extremely important topic for your examination. Terror financing, terror funding. See, the simple idea is no terrorist activity in the world will be successful unless they have the money to sponsor it. Someone in the chat was even asking this: how do terrorists get money to buy guns, to buy bombs, etc.? It's a fair question. From where do terrorists get their money from? Because at the end of the day, without terror funding, you can't really go ahead and commit these terror acts. These days even startups are not getting funding, so terrorists getting funding is a big achievement. So how exactly is terror funding possible? Who funds them? You can't even say in terror funding, I want 50 lakh rupees in exchange for 10% equity, because when you blow up, 0% is left. So what is 10% of anything that is blown up? So anyway, so how is terror financing possible? Who finances it? How is the government trying to control it? Because around the entire world, everyone accepts that the best way to stop terror activity is to try and stop money flowing into terrorist hands. That is the simple and the most logical way to stop terror activities. That is to cut down their funding. If you are not able to cut down the funding, no matter what law you make, no matter how strict your police is, no matter how good your intelligence is, there will always be terror activities unless you cut them their funding. So how does it work? So as per the UN, the United Nations, if you look at what UN says, they tell you that money into terror activities is needed for all these purposes: to recruit people. Because see, when you go to someone and tell them, see, recruiting someone for terror, to convince someone to come and kill anyone else, to convince someone to come with the possibility that they themselves will be killed is not an easy task. So please have respect for terrorists. They are not doing an easy task. When you go and convince someone, come and join me, and they're like, what will I get in return? You may get 5 bullets. If you are good enough, you may get a bomb blast as well. So it depends how good you are. But to convince someone to actually come and kill you for you or get killed is not an easy task. So one of the things that are important here, when the terrorists are trying to convince someone to come and join, they use money as a way of recruitment. They use money as a way of recruitment. For example, they tell you that if you join us, if something happens to you, your family will be taken care of. Don't worry. Even if you come to us, if something happens to you, you don't have to worry. Your family will be taken care of. Whatever they require will be done. So first, money is used to recruit people and support the members. Support the members how? If they are living with you, they will eat something. They will need some money. So all of that requires money. To maintain logistical hubs means terror camps. You would have heard in the news that there's a terror camp here, there's a terror camp there. Setting up these terror camps in this such high real estate cost, do you think it is easy? Getting a 3 BHK these days on rent will cost you 60 70,000 rupees. So accommodating 100 150 people in a terror camp, it's not cheap. So you have to spend money to maintain the logistics. Then to conduct operations. Conducting operation again means buying weapons, bombs, devices, cars, whatever, giving bribe to the people. All of that requires a lot of money. That is why terror organizations have always been looking to get money. Now, remember about half an hour ago, I discussed about Hamas and Hezbollah. Remember? I discussed about how Hamas and Hezbollah, both of them use warfare as a tactic against Israel. Both of them, from where do they get the money? They get the money from Iran. So Iran supports or gives money to Hamas. They give money to Hezbollah. So every one of these, at the end of the day, have a machine that gives them the money, that prints the notes for them. In fact, a lot of terror attacks around the world, when investigated, it has been proven that many of them had money or financing linked to Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi Arabia is a very interesting country. It has been proven beyond doubt that their money has been involved in multiple terror attacks around the world, including some of them that have been conducted in the US. Even some of the US terror attacks, the funding of it actually can be connected, the wires go back to Saudi Arabia. Even then, Saudi Arabia commands such power in the world. Even the US has a great relationship with Saudi Arabia because the entire world knows that they have something that we all want, that is oil. So it's not a very secretive process, or it's not a very secret information who is giving money to whom, where is the financing coming from, who is the financing going for. This is not a very secret information. All this information is known to almost everyone, and even then, the countries don't take action because they have their own larger interests in play. That is how politics usually work. Anyway, now if you look at terror financing, again, I'm giving you all the international definitions that are accepted by the international organizations. According to International Convention for Suppression of Financing of Terrorism, if a person engages in collecting funds directly or indirectly, if you had knowledge that the money that you're collecting will be used in an offense related to terrorism, you will be a part of terror financing. Means you can't say later that, oh, I did not know where the money is going. I to just gave 10 rupees donation. Someone came to me, asked for donation. I gave 10 rupees. I did not ask them where will it be used, how will you use it. If that money goes on and is used in any terror activities, then you will be charged with being involved in terror financing. Countries around the world are trying to stop terror financing by making multiple laws, by making multiple provisions. We'll discuss some of those laws today as well. Interpol, all of you have heard of this? All of you know what Interpol is? I'm sure at least in the movies you would have heard of it. Interpol is international police. By the way, that reminds me, let me ask you this question. Interpol has a connecting agency in every country of the world. Means if Interpol has to communicate or has to send a message to India, through which agency do they coordinate in India? What is India's coordinating agency to the Interpol? What do you think? I have a right answer from Tulsi, Krishika, Bhimare, Ankush. Let's see. All others are wrong so far. Let's see. Arnab, Suomo. Some of your answers, I'm not even sure what you're trying to write. Vaishnavi, what is flying squad? The one that comes in a board examination to see if you are cheating or not. Is that the flying squad you're referring to? Which flying squad? Or is there something else? Satyapal, what ambassador to who? When you say ambassador, ambassador of who? Okay, let me tell you the answer. Yes, Radhika is also correct. The answer here is CBI. CBI. CBI is the coordinating agency from India to the Interpol. So if Interpol has to communicate something to India, if Interpol has to send some information to India, share some notices, ask for information from some people, CBI is what they contact. So the idea of Interpol is simple. Most of the criminals, after they commit a crime, the first thing they will always do is change their country because they will feel safer in the other country. If they are wanted in India, you will see most of the people fly out of India, go to Nepal, go to Dubai, go to UK, go to other countries, thinking that they will not be caught there. This is a problem not just faced by India, but multiple nations around the world. That criminals, after committing the crime, used to run away, used to fly away, in order to ensure that that does not happen or there is proper coordination amongst countries. An organization was formed called Interpol. This is what Interpol does. If there is a criminal running from your country, hiding in some other country, flying from one airport to the other, you tell the Interpol and they will try to track that person down by coordinating with everyone. Anyway, so what does Interpol say? Interpol also talks about financing. It talks about what are the source of terror financing, from where do terror groups get their money. Low level fraud, kidnapping, misuse of non-profit organizations, illegal trade, oil, narcotics, gold, etc. Now, and these days, digital currencies as well. I'll give you an example right now of Taliban. Where does Taliban get most of their money from? Now, and we'll take example of ISIS also. ISIS or Islamic State, whatever you want to call it. Now, if you look at where does Taliban get their money from? Now, how do they get the money? From where is it that they're able to buy weapons, etc.? For Taliban specifically, they don't really have any source of money in their country. They don't have any export commodity. It's not like they have, let's say, oil or weapon, etc., that they can export. Most of their money right now comes in from illegal drug trafficking, mostly opium and heroin. These are the two drugs that are seen in Taliban, or that are sold by Taliban in large numbers illegally around the world. That is one way in which they get a lot of money. Similarly, with ISIS or Islamic State, what happened with ISIS was, when they were powerful, they controlled areas that had a lot of oil fields and gas fields. So ISIS, most of the money that they got was from taking out oil, taking out gas, selling them in the market at a lower cost than the cost at which other countries were selling. So every group has tried to have at least one source of funding that they are comfortable with, so that they can ensure endless supply of it. Then there are some terror groups that have a backing of other countries. I gave you an example of Hamas and Hezbollah, both of them being supported by Iran. There is one more group you might have heard of, Houthis. Have you heard of this name, Houthis? Have you heard of Houthis? If yes, in which country are they active? If I've heard of them, where are they? Yes, Devyani, Manas, Krishika, Arnab, perfect. Tulsi, Ram. Most of you are right. Muskan, yeah. Yemen. Most of you are absolutely right. They are in Yemen, involved in a long going civil war against the Yemen government. They are the ones who are trying to, or who are attacking merchant ships in the Red Sea, in the news in the past few months for conducting all these attacks. Houthis also get a lot of financing from Iran. They also get much money from Iran as such. So again, there are different types of terror funding that you have. Either you have your own source like oil, etc. Either you grow something like opium, heroin, or you have a backer who wants to spread terrorism through you, who wants to make sure that you are successful so that their objective is achieved. That is why you will see Iran coming in and supporting all these kind of groups. We also see terror activities now being crowd-funded with the use of dark web. Do you know what dark web is? So, dark web is that part of the internet that is not usually accessible to common people. So, a large part of the internet is not accessible to common people like you and me. Like you use browser like Google Chrome, etc., Safari. These are normal browsers that you use to access internet. However, a large part of internet, most of the websites, etc., cannot be accessed through these browsers, Google Chrome or Safari. For those, there are some special browsers needed. That part of the internet, which is not accessible to common people, it is called the dark web. It is called the dark web. So a lot of terrorists also use the dark web to ask people for money, to ask people for donations, to ask people, for example, if you hate America for some reason, let's say America did something wrong to you, someone that you like was punished in America, then there is a terror group that comes in and sends you an email. Donate money to us, we will take revenge from America. Give us money, we will go and bomb Americans. That is how they try and influence people. They try to convince you that we will take revenge from your enemy. And that is, again, these are most of the sources of financing for terror organizations around the entire world. Now, let's go into what are we doing about it. Let's start first with India. What is India doing about it? And then we'll go on to the world, the global efforts. How is the world trying to fight it? As I told you earlier, and repeat this once again, from terrorism, this chapter, the most important question that we frequently get asked is about terror financing only. Most questions are about terror financing. What is terror financing? The source of terror financing? What is it that the government is trying to do to control them? So, how is India trying to control terror financing? First, trying to restrict the use of money going into terror activities, prevent the use of virtual asset like cryptocurrency, etc. We are trying to keep a strict eye on that. Government is trying to eliminate the use of cash, hawala, illegal channels or transfer of money. We are Government is being very strict on non-profit organizations, NPOs. Let me give you an example. Have you heard of something called FCRA? Have you heard of this? What exactly is FCRA and why is it in the news? What is FCRA? Don't Google it. Okay, Anoop. Okay, Bhimare. FCRA is Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. So this is Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. In simple terms, it says if you're running an NGO that is taking funds from foreign countries, after a limit, if you are taking money from foreign countries, you have to take an FCRA license. If an NGO that is taking money from outside India, after a certain extent, you have to take license from the Home Ministry of India. That license is called FCRA license. That license also is only valid for 5 years. Only for 5 years you will get that license. After 5 years, you again come back to the government, you again apply, government will again do a background check. If they think it is fine, the government will extend the license again for 5 more years. So license is given only once, only 5 years at time, and you can extend it multiple times. So why is the government doing that? So as to ensure we don't have any outside of foreign interference or foreign money going into the hands of these organizations that are then using it against India. That's an example of in government of India is trying to control this foreign influence. In fact, under this only, do you know many NGOs have been banned in India already? You might have heard of this famous NGO called Greenpeace. Greenpeace is a very famous global NGO. On paper, apparently, they work for environmental conservation. They protest against any government activities if they think these activities are harming the environment. When the government tries to build, let's say, any big dam, the government tries to cut down the forest, they will come and start protesting. The government thinks that they are getting money from outside to interfere in our development, to interfere in our growth, and that is why we have banned it. So government of India also tries to ensure that we regulate foreign funds coming in. Under FCRA law, only I'll tell you one more very interesting point. Even if you get FCRA license, you have an NGO, you get the license, means you can get money from outside India. Even then, even then, you can only take money in one bank account, which has to be an SBI account in New Delhi. Under FCRA, the only account where you can take money is New Delhi State Bank of India account, so that the government can keep an eye on this, so that the government can see in your account where are you getting the money from, who is sending you all this money, if you're getting too much money from somewhere or not. This is an example of what the government is trying to do, especially to stop foreign interference, to ensure that we do not have interference from outside. Garima license, Garima is saying license is to be taken before or after the fund is received. Garima, let me ask you this question. Do you need a driving license after you drive or before you drive? What do you think? That will be the answer to your question. That's it. Good. Intelligent. Okay. Someone is asking me what is Hawala. So, Hawala transactions are something that were very famous in India in 1980s and 1990s. Hawala, in simple terms, is illegal transfer of cash money. Let's assume here in India, you have a lot of cash. Let's say in your own home, you have 2000 crore rupees in cash. Okay? Wherever you are, I don't know. Wherever it is, I don't know. But let's say in your home, you have 2000 crore rupees in cash. Now, you want to use this money to buy a property in Dubai, or you want to buy a property in Australia, or whatever. Now, you can't take all that money into a suitcase and then fly out of India. There's a limit to that. There's a limit to how much money can you take outside India. If you want to do a bank transfer, you can, but then giving in the bank means you have to tell the source of the money. You have to tell from where exactly did you get that money. This is black money, you want to hide it. This is where Hawala agents come in the picture. So if you want to, let's say, send 100 crore rupees to Australia, Hawala agent will come. This Hawala agent will tell you, give me the 100 crore rupees in cash. My friend in Australia will give your friend 90 crore rupees in cash. This is called Hawala transaction. 10 crore will be my fees. You give me 100 crore rupees here. My friend in Australia will transfer the 90 crore rupees to your friend. Don't worry. Now, before you ask me, sir, how is it done? I don't know. If I would have known, I would have been a Hawala agent maybe. So don't ask me how do they do it. I can tell you what do they do. How do they do? I don't know. And neither should you. Okay, we are poor people. We'll only earn a few thousand rupees in a month. We are not at that level. So Hawala agents, whatever they do, however they do, we don't know. Anyway, so the government is trying to control that. The government is trying to build capacity against terror organizations. How? By talking to other countries, by sharing intelligence, by sharing as much information as possible. These are the 5 pillars of our strategy. Do remember these for the examination. This is important. This is a 5 point strategy that the government of India uses against terror financing. Number one, to have monitoring framework, monitor all the money coming in, have all the investigative agencies on the same page, sharing of information amongst the investigative agencies. Second, government uses a strategy of trace, target, and terminate. Means trace the money coming in, see where exactly is it, the target, and then eliminate that, terminate that. Third, government is using or trying to improve a legal structure. For example, we have a very strong PMLA law in India. What is PMLA? Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So India has a very strong PMLA law under which a lot of powers have been given to your favorite ED. ED that you keep on hearing in the news, Enforcement Directorate. They have done this, they have done that. They specifically became very, very active just before we have elections. ED has been given all the powers before the or due to the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, that is the PMLA. Now, again, this is again one of the government's attempts to strengthen the framework, to strengthen the laws that exist. Also, the government is trying to develop a mechanism against the misuse of next gen technology. Next gen technology means a new technology coming in that can be cryptocurrency. Now, the interesting part here is interesting or disappointing, whatever you want to call it. After so many years, even today, we still do not have a specific clear cut policy about cryptocurrency in India. Even today, India government has not really clarified, is it banned in India? Is it allowed in India? So the status is still not very clear. The only thing the government said is, till the time we decide, at least let us put some tax on it. So they said, at least let's put some tax. We'll decide later on, don't worry. But by the time we decide, at least we'll get some money. So now there is a tax on cryptocurrency in India. So if you are, let's say, if you are earning profit in cryptocurrency, whatever profit you earn, 30% you have to give in taxes. They have still not clarified whether or not it will be allowed in India or not in the long run, but India is trying to actually regulate that. Sakshi is asking cryptocurrency. Sakshi, cryptocurrency, I will not go into detail of it. It's a science and tech topic, so ask there, but cryptocurrency in simple terms is currency that does not have a value of its own. It's a currency that you earn by solving some problems. You would have heard of Bitcoin. It's a currency that is based on the idea of blockchain technology. It's not a currency issued by any country. It's not a currency issued by any bank. It's a currency that is based on blockchain technology. For example, bitcoins. There are limited number of bitcoins in the world. How do you earn bitcoins? You solve some very tough mathematical problems. If you solve them, you automatically get bitcoin in your computer. You can trade with others. Bitcoin is extremely expensive right now. It's about 50,000 rupees per bitcoin. I'm laughing because I remember, I think about 2019, if I'm not on 2019, I think I invested in Bitcoin when it was 20,000 rupees. So I invested in Bitcoin when it was about 20,000, not dollars, sorry. I invested in Bitcoin when it was about $20,000 per Bitcoin. It has now crossed $50,000. But before you say congratulations, I took it out. I took it out when it reached from 20,000 to 18,000. And I was like, I was like, oh, my money will be gone. From 20,000 to $18,000, it reduced. I took out the money, and now it is upwards of $50,000 now. So shit. Anyways, so let's go back. Other strategy that Indian government is trying to do, the government of India is trying to have strong laws for asset recovery. Asset recovery basically means, if you, let's say, have bought something with black money, the government should have the power to confiscate it. the government should have the power to sell it off. That will all be asset recovery. These are some of the things that the government of India has been doing. It's a strategy that the government has adopted. Please do remember these 5 pointers. When I say remember these 5 pointers, even if you don't remember them word by word, don't worry. Try and see the idea. So, the first idea, for example, in short, first idea to have better collaboration amongst investigative agency, that can be one point. Second point can be just this phrase: target, trace, target, and terminate. Third point can be to harmonize the legal structure. Fourth point can be to stop the misuse of next gen technology. Fifth point can be to have stronger laws and framework for asset recovery. So when I say remember 5 points, I don't mean to say remember each and every word of it. You can have a gist of it. You can have remember this in smaller form, whatever you want. You can try and do that. Now at the global level, what has been done? At the global level, it's not just India, but many countries around the world are fed up of this problem of finances or money going into terrorist hands, and they try to control this. What has been done? See, usually the problem is the world only takes a problem seriously when the richer countries are affected by it. And this is a sad reality. Only when the rich countries are affected by it will you see that, oh, there is a problem like this. There are so many examples of this. COVID 19 was an example where you saw vaccine of COVID 19 being developed at such a fast pace that was never seen in entire world's history. In the entire history of the world, on an average, developing a vaccine from the scratch took 8 to 10 years on an average. For COVID 19, it took not even one full year to develop a full fledged vaccine. The only reason was that rich countries are affected by it. Why do you think even today we don't have an Ebola vaccine? Do you think the scientists could make COVID 19 vaccine but they can't make Ebola vaccine? They can, but there is no focus on that. There's no funding going into that because we don't have any case of Ebola in the US or European countries. I'm not saying they should have it, but God forbid, if you have a problem of Ebola, etc., going into the developed world, only then you will see them being worried and focusing on their vaccine as well. Similar is the case with terror. As I said, before 9/11 attacks, September 11 attacks, as you call them in 2001 in the US and European countries were of the view that terrorism is a third world problem. They thought, oh, terrorism, it doesn't affect us, it affects the poor countries. Let them go and handle this. We are above all this. We have all things sorted. Our law and order is perfect. We will never have this problem. It was only after the World Trade Center attack that the realization struck them that they are also not away from terror. That terror is a reality which can strike them as well. And that is why we saw a lot of international efforts being taken for terror financing or to stop terror financing, mainly in the 21st century. In 1999, we had something called UNSCR. This is United Nations Security Council Resolution. UN Security Council Resolution. There is a number to every resolution. So there is a UN Security Council Resolution number 1267. It's a resolution that identifies terror organizations around the world. It identifies terror organizations around the world. It blacklists organizations. It tells which are the organizations which have to be banned. When it was created, it was specifically for Al Qaeda. It was specifically for Al Qaeda and for ISIS. ISIS joined later on. When it was first created, it was mainly for Al Qaeda because that was the organization that had conducted terror attacks in America. Global efforts include in the UN Office on Drugs and Crime that works on countering the financing that goes into terror. We also have an international convention called International Convention for Suppression of Financing on Terrorism. All these efforts are done at the global level, but the problem is none of this, none of this is actually binding. None of this is binding. Means, in other words, if a country does not agree to follow these guidelines, let's say there are guidelines given that a country should not do this, they should not give money to this, or they should keep a track of money flowing here and there. If a country does not do that, there is no concrete action that you can take against that country, because these resolutions are not binding in nature. You can only hope that the nations and the governments will follow this, but these are never binding in nature. One other thing that you might be familiar with in the news, I'm sure, is FATF. Remember? You would have heard this a lot in the news, FATF. Okay, we'll go to FATF in just a bit. We'll go to FATF in just a bit. Before that, some other examples. There's something called the Delhi Declaration of Counter Terror Committee, where all the countries agreed that we will try to prevent the use of emerging technology for terror purposes. We have had multiple special meetings where the countries have discussed the problem of social media being used for terror activities, social media being used for fundraising also. We have even discussed issues of abuse of drones, etc. These are all the things that are discussed usually on international stage. But again, the problem is none of these discussions are binding. Even after all these discussions, there are multiple countries that do use terror as a part of their foreign policy. A lot of countries support the terror organization whenever it suits their purpose. For example, US supported Taliban when it had to fight against Soviet Union. Iran is now supporting Hezbollah, Hamas when they want to fight indirectly against Israel. Similarly, Russia is supporting a lot of such groups that are fighting in Syria. There is no end to it. There are a lot of countries that actually try and support other countries or other terror groups as a part of their foreign policy. The idea that other countries follow is, if the group is not harming me, then what is the problem? If the group is not harming me, then what is the problem? And why do the countries support them? For example, someone was asking this question: why does Iran give money to Hamas? Why does Iran give money to Hezbollah? The idea is simple. Iran wants the end of Israel. Ever since Israel has been formed, Iran has considered that Israel's existence is a threat to them. Now, there are two ways in which Iran can fight them. One way is, if Iran wants to end Israel, then they can go on a war with Israel. That's a simple, straightforward answer. That if you don't want a country, or if you are enemies with a country, why don't you just fight with that country? Number one. But fighting against a country means, first, you are endangering your own army. Your soldiers will lose their lives. It might involve attack in your own country. But if Israel gets angry, they can attack Iran itself. So it will endanger the lives of citizens of Iran also. So the better way for the countries to do that is to fight what you call as proxy wars. To fight this, the countries employ a tactic called the proxy war. Proxy war means I will use someone else to fight my war. Remember, in college we used to have this proxy thing. When you did not go to the class or you were absent, you ask your friend to please put a proxy on my name. When someone else will put attendance on your behalf. Proxy war is similar. When you want to fight a war without involving your own army, without getting directly involved in that, so you employ someone else. This is again the concept of proxy war, wherein you think that someone else will do the fight for you. You will give them the money, you will give them the weapons, you will give them the support, but you will not supply your people. Also, it gives you something. There's a phrase in politics, very famous phrase. There's something called plausible deniability. Have you heard of this? Plausible deniability. It's a very famous phrase in politics, plausible deniability. Plausible deniability means when something wrong happens, you can deny that I did not have any information about this. So, for example, if Iran is giving money to Hamas, Hamas, let's say, attacks Israel and they kill many people. Iran can say, I was not behind this, I did not know this, I did not know Hamas will do this. So, this is called plausible deniability, that you can deny that I had any role to play in this because you are not directly involved. Because you can say, no, I was not directly involved. I so don't know what were they doing. I did not even talk to them. Last time I thought it was 2 months ago, 3 months ago, etc. This is exactly what Iran did in the recent attacks. Recently, on October 7th, when Hamas, their terrorists, entered Israel, killed hundreds of people, kidnapped many people, Iran said exactly the same thing, that I did not know what has happened. Oh, that happened. Oh, no, no, I did not know that. I only got to know about it 2 days later when I read in Times of India. I did not know something like this has happened. So, again, this is called plausible deniability. So, the countries usually employ this tactic that rather than fighting themselves, they will fight through someone else over here. Exactly the same as what Pakistan does. Why is it that Pakistan supports terror organizations, terror groups that want to damage India? That is again an example of a proxy war. Rather than having a full fledged war with India, which they think that they would not be able to win, they will employ these tactics that rather than actually having a big attack on India, why not have this small attack? Why not actually have this attack through some other groups? Give money to the other terror organizations, train them, give them weapons, and then ask them to enter India. This is how proxy wars are. Now, internationally, one big initiative that every one of you is familiar with is the FATF. FATF is Financial Action Task Force. Now, this is a lot in the news in the past few years. Usually, you read about the grey list of FATF, I'm sure. So, FATF has a grey list, has a black list. Now, these are the two usual lists that we have. FATF. Now, what do they do? In simple terms, it's an informal organization. The objective is to stop money laundering and money going into the hands of terror activities. That is a simple objective. Their objective is try to make sure money does not go into the hands of terrorists. The government does every single thing to stop that. Now, FATF started in 1989, started in the G7 summit. The rich countries started it, kind of pushing the other countries to make policies which stops the flow of money illegally into the hands of the terrorists. Now, FATF publishes something called the grey list and the black list. I'm sure you all are familiar with this. At least you're familiar with the grey list, familiar because Pakistan was in it for a long time. So we were familiar with this. We were reading this, and we were like, Pakistan, yay, congrats. So we were familiar with this. When we read that Pakistan is in the grey list, it's out of it now. Recently, it was news a couple of days back because UAE has come out of the grey list. It was also in the grey list. It has also come out of it. So, what is it? What do they do? And what are these lists all about? So, basically, the first thing that they do is grey list. Now, grey list is a list of those countries that are not able to stop the money into going into the hands of the terrorist. So, grey list is again, it's not that they are actively giving the money. It does that they are not able to stop the money from going into the terror activities. So they need to make better laws. They need to make laws which are stricter. They need to make laws which plug in all those loopholes. That's the gray list. Blacklist is countries that are actively supporting terrorism. Blacklisted, they're actively, openly supporting terrorism. They're actively trying to give money to terror activities. Now, again, this is a opinion of the FATF. Countries obviously might not agree with this. Iran is in the blacklist. They might not agree with this. They say, no, 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 we should not be in the blacklist. So again, it depends upon them. Now, the question here is, what happens when you are in this list? Is there some punishment? So the idea is, again, you can't punish a country as such. There is no law in the world that allows you to punish a country. What you can do is damage their reputation. So countries that are in the gray list, for example, because gray lists are those countries where the countries are not able to stop money going into a terrorist hands. So if you're in the gray list, your reputation is tarnished. So the idea is that the entire world will know that you are not able to stop money going into terror hands. That means for a country in the gray list or in the blacklist, going and taking a loan from any international organization will become extremely, extremely difficult. Or not just any organization, going and taking a loan from any country, trying to get money, it becomes very, very, very difficult. So, for example, Pakistan, when it was in the grey list, Pakistan had a very hard time going to the IMF asking for a loan, because the idea is it's a signal that if you give money to these countries, that money will indirectly go into the hands of the terror organization and you will not be able to stop them. So that is a problem. So again, grey list of those countries which are not able to stop money going to the hands of terrorists. FATF tells them that this is what you should do. These are the policy changes you should make in order to stop money in the terrorist hands. Blacklist, on the other hand, countries which are actively giving money to terrorists. Black money will, or blacklist will be countries that are actively supporting terrorists. There are only three countries in the blacklist: Iran, North Korea, and Syria. These are only the three countries that we have in the blacklist. So again, there is no law that says if you're in the blacklist, you will not get any funding. Please understand. There is no law that says you will not get funding. It just means that you will have a hard time, a difficult time to get funding, because other countries might not trust you. No one can force you from not giving any money. Like someone is saying in the chat, China still give money to Pakistan. Yes, they can. Saudi Arabia is also giving money to Pakistan in that time. Yes, they can. No one is stopping them from giving money. Again, they can't stop them from giving the money. Guys, I have repeated black and gray list 3 times now. Please don't ask me to repeat it the fourth time. If you're still not hearing it, maybe it's not meant for you. Maybe see the recording. But I can't keep on repeating gray, black, gray, black, gray, black. Now, as I said, this it's not that the countries will be forced to stop it. It's just that now you might have a hard time in getting the money. That is what the blacklist and the grey list are. Okay. Before we go ahead, let me again open it up for you for a few minutes to take up some of your questions, and then we will might as well take a break and then resume. Let's see some of the questions coming in. Again, ask only relevant questions. That is my request to you. Irrelevant questions have to ignore. I'm sorry. Sakshi saying, when the government wants to ban something, do they have to pass a bill or any other way? No, Sakshi, they can just give an executive order on most of the things. Depend on what they are banning, but most of the things they can just ban by an executive order. Gaurav, I told you, beta, in the grey list there are only three countries. Grey list has North Korea, Iran, and Syria. Krishika Singh, has India succeeded in controlling terror financing? Krishika, see, these things are ongoing process. So, for example, it's like asking me, Krishika, Are you honest or not? It's an ongoing process. Maybe you're honest till now. If I ask you, are you a good kid or not? It's a continuous process. So when you say has India controlled terror financing, there's no yes or no answer. It's a continuous process. We are trying to do better and better and better. We are improving. Obviously, it can never go down to zero, but we are improving. Yes. Gunjan is saying who finances the FATF. Gunjan, I don't know what your question is. What do you mean to say? FATF doesn't need any money. They don't spend any money as such. Bhimar is saying, what do you mean by formal and informal organization? So Bhimar, a formal organization means an organization that has its own office, that have its own charter, like the UN, G20, G20 not doesn't have its office, but G20 also has its charter, NAM, non-aligned movement. Those are formal organizations. Meshak is saying why dark web is available to terrorism. Meshak, it's not that dark web is available to terrorism. Dark web is that part of internet which is difficult to track. You can also use it. I advise you not to because it's dangerous. You can also use it. So terrorism or terror groups use it so that they can't be tracked. Sapna, India is not in any of the two lists. Not grey, not black. Rambat, FATF is controlled by G7 countries. That is what they do. Lakshya, India is a member of FATF, not just an observer, and we are not in any of the list, not in grey list, not in blacklist. Guys, I am not sure why you are not hearing it. I have told you 6 or 7 times now which are the countries in the blacklist. I don't know why you want me to keep repeating it. If you're not listening to other people's answers, and I can't help you, I'm sorry. Shilata is saying if a developed country supporting terrorism, what action can we take? Shilata, there is no difference between between developing and developed country as such in terms of do they support terror or not. Same action. You can maximum you can bring a resolution against them in the UN, criticize them, bring them on the FATF grey or blacklist. Nothing else that you can do as such. Ankush Singh, FATF say there are 21 countries in the grey list. So Ankush, what exactly is your question? I'm not sure. I never said there are not 21 countries. What exactly are you trying to ask, Ankush? Then Shweta is saying plausible deniability. Shweta, plausible deniability means a situation where you can just deny that I did not have any knowledge of this. Like Iran supports Hamas, so that if Hamas done something bad, Iran can say, I did not do this, I did not have any information about this. This is called plausible deniability. And they would not be lying also. Gunjan, the members of FATF donate money for their salary. Then Jaswant, no, G7 members are not a part of the grey list, at least so far. Ankush, I told 3 countries in the black list B, L, A, C, K, not equal to G, R, E, Y. These are two different. I said in blacklist there are 3 countries. Okay, what you are saying is grey list has 21 countries. This is also not equal. Understood? Then, Aditya, I've got your message. I'll check with the team. Megha is saying USA knows everything about Pakistan. Why don't they take any action against Pakistan? What is the benefit to India? Megha, every country takes action in their own self-interest. Just because we don't like Pakistan doesn't mean that we would want USA to take action against them. USA will identify themselves whether they want to take any action or not. If they think Pakistan is more useful to them to control Afghanistan, why will they take action? Our problem is our problem, none of their problem. There was, I think, dialogue in some movie like this, right? It's our problem. We can't expect someone else to take care of it. Gunjan, I have explained proxy war 4 times. I'm not going to do it the fifth time. I'm sorry. Please go and see the recording. If you don't want to, entirely up to you. Lakshya saying, what was that one rule of one SBI account? So Lakshya, any NGO that wants to take foreign donations that has to get FCRA license. Under that, the condition is if you take FCRA license for foreign donations, you have to open up an account in SBI branch of New Delhi. That is the only account in which your foreign donation will come. So anyone who transfers money from a foreign country to your NGO can only do that in your SBI account of New Delhi. Sheila, this is the previous line. Then Sapna is saying, what is the reason for emerging terrorism? Sapna, see, the reason for terrorism is maybe you don't agree to other people's ideology. You want to force upon an ideology to someone else. You think that you are being subjected to violence. You want to take revenge. You believe that your religion has taught you this. There are different reasons why anyone would want to go ahead and indulge in terrorism. Roshan, not Myanmar. Uh, then Sakshi, dark web is dangerous because you can be hacked very easily. It's a dangerous because illegal activities go on there. When you interact with people, they are people who are able to hack into your account, who are able to track your movement online. That's why dark web is dangerous. Then Chandrakant is saying, what is a reason for rivalry between Pakistan and India? Chandrakant, have you heard of a thing called Kashmir? If you have not, please try and read that. Then you will know what is the reason between rivalry for India and Pakistan. Then, guys, I think you can stop asking your question. This is getting redundant now. Once I finish the question, we'll take the break. Shubham is saying why USA acts like supreme country, like in an American currency followed by many countries. See, Shubham, no one is forcing you to follow the dollar currency. Everyone is free to do that. It's not that someone gave America the certificate that your dollar will be used by everyone. Global currency is something that the countries use where they believe on trust in that currency. When a country believes that if I have $100, if no one else accepts it, America will accept it, give me something in return of that $100, give me gold in return of that. Then that is why we accept dollars. There is no rule that only dollar has to be the global currency. You can take any other currency that you want. The currency becomes global when you trust that country enough that they will be able to sustain the global economy. Simple. Aaron is saying, can we say foreign country relationship is the same as human relations? Aaron, I have no idea what you're trying to say. So maybe if you can explain right. If you can't, I'm not sure. What do you mean by human relations and country relations? I'm sorry. Guys, you can stop asking the questions now. Ankush is saying, what is the real aim of terrorism? Ankush, real aim of terrorism again is to spread your ideology, to make people believe in what you believe in. As simple as that. Dwaipan is saying, can't Indian government ban dark web in India? Dark web is something which is, again, the government has banned many websites. Dark web is a technology which is illegal. So it's not properly banned, but yes, when you go on dark web, you are taking your own risk in case a lot of things have been banned in India, but they're still accessible. If you really want to access it, you can. Sakshi, government uses normal internet, not the dark web. Pavitra, who control the terror financing in the country? Pavitra, depends on country to country. Some governments give terror financing. Some terror groups, as we discussed, get financing from selling of drugs, oil, etc. Then Shreza is saying any possibility of G7 country into grey list. Shreza, I don't know the future. You don't know the future. It's not about whether G7 can be in grey list or not. Any country in the view of the FATF that supports terror financing will go into grey list. It doesn't matter which country is at G7, G20, doesn't really matter. One last question from Shubham. Is VPN a dark web? No, 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 Shubham. VPN is not dark web. Dark web is entirely different. VPN is just that when you try to open website virtually from someone else, from some other position. That is the only thing. One last question. Aryan is saying, is there an organization that deals with terrorism in India? Aryan, I think you want to ask organization that tries to stop terrorism in India, not does. Home Ministry is responsible for Indian internal security. Simple. So Home Ministry is responsible for stopping terror in India. If that is what your question is. Anyways, let's take a break, guys. These are the questions that came in. Let's be back at 7:20, and we'll resume from here when we talk about the Khalistan movement in India. Thank you. Hi everyone. I hope all of you are back. All right then. All right then. So now we will be discussing some ongoing issues that we have in India that fall into the category of terrorism. What is exactly these issues? We are taking up some of those which are in the news specifically. So the first issue that we want to do a detailed discussion on, because it was also in the news and it is still in the news, is something called the Khalistan movement. Now, what exactly is this dispute? What is this issue? Let's try and understand this and see where exactly have we ended up here. So, the idea is, when you saw India's independence in 1947, when India got independent, there were two states that were the biggest, or the state that were affected by it the biggest, in the biggest quantity. One was Punjab towards the western side of India, and the other was West Bengal. These were the two states that were affected the most. West Bengal on one side, because a big part of it was taken away in East Pakistan or today's Bangladesh. Then Punjab also was taken away on the other side. Now, if you look at Punjab specifically for now, when Punjab got partitioned because of India Pakistan partition, Punjab lost a big portion of it. In fact, the portion that went to Pakistan was or still is extremely, extremely fertile. Some of their biggest cities, including Lahore, for example, went towards Pakistan. The other side of the story is, if you look at it from Pakistan's point of view, Pakistan also has a province called Punjab. So Pakistan also has a state called Punjab. And it is so dominating that 60% of Pakistan's population is only in Punjab. Just imagine, one state of Pakistan has 60% of its population, that is Punjab. Now, when Punjab got partitioned from the Indian side, there were two big problems. One problem was that a lot of our fertile land has been gone or has been taken away. And second issue also was that the water connections, canals, etc., that were built, that were also taken away. So now this is when the story starts. After this, in 1950s, there was a demand within India that we want a separate Punjabi speaking state. Now, please understand, what you call as Punjab today existed in the way of PEPSU, PEPSU. I don't know how many of you have heard of it. There was something called PEPSU. Have you heard of it? We did not have something called Punjab. We actually had PEPSU. So PEPSU is Patiala and East Punjab State Union. So PEPSU was Patiala and East Punjab State Union. Because understand this, Patiala was a separate princely state, number one, and East Punjab, why? Because West Punjab had gone to Pakistan. Patiala was a princely state, a small princely state, and out of Punjab, because it got partitioned in the way that a large part of Punjab went to Pakistan, it was called as West Punjab. So East Punjab basically stayed here. So again, this is what became PEPSU. Now, in PEPSU, if you look from today's point of view, today's Punjab, Haryana, and Himachal Pradesh, these three were actually PEPSU. Together were called PEPSU. Now, there was a demand that started in 1955. The demand was just like it was happening in many other parts of the country. When Andhra Pradesh came into being in the name of the Telugu language, there was demand from other parts of the country as well, that we want a specific state for our own language. So, for example, Gujarati started demanding Gujarat. They wanted to come out of Bombay. Similarly, Punjabi speaking population in PEPs who started demanding that we want our own specific state where only Punjabi speaking population should live. This movement went on for a long time. Thus, it was only in 1966 that Haryana was carved out. Haryana was carved out in the sense Punjabi speaking population, Punjabi speaking areas became Punjab, Hindi speaking areas became Haryana, and hilly areas, the one that were hilly areas, that became Himachal Pradesh. So this is how the division was. Now, the division was not very peaceful. There were some communal violence that had started. However, when partition took place of the state, when Punjab was separate, Haryana was separate, most people thought that is the end of the problem. Most people thought that's the end of the problem. Aditya, dear, when I use a thinner pen, students ask me to use a thicker pen. Now I'm using a thick pen, so you are asking me to use a thin pen. So I'm not sure what do I do. Let me give you your options. So the one pen that I have is this, number one. The second pen that I'm using right now is this. So I'm not sure what people would want. Aditya, really sorry, man, but people are preferring towards leaning towards two. People are leaning towards two, so I'm sorry. Democracy wins. Now you get a taste of when you don't win after voting. Anyway, so let's go towards number two. Okay, so let's go ahead. So now what happened was, again, when there was partition on the basis of language, everyone thought it will be fine, but that was not the end of it. In fact, that was a beginning of a bigger problem. The beginning of the bigger problem was when partition took place, there were many issues. There were two big issues basically. First big issue was Chandigarh. Who will get Chandigarh? And the second big issue was water. And this is something that is not uncommon. Whenever we have division of states or whenever we have creation of more than one state out of one, there is always a problem of who will get the big city or who will get the main city. When Telangana came out of Andhra Pradesh, there was this huge debate who will get Hyderabad. So what they did was they said, okay, Hyderabad common capital for 10 years, and then Andhra Pradesh has to find a new capital. When Gujarat got created, even at the creation of Gujarat, there was an issue that Gujaratis wanted Bombay at that time, and Maharashtra wanted Bombay. In fact, go even further back. Andhra Pradesh, when it was created, they wanted Madras, today's Chennai, as you call it. They wanted that city. Andhra Pradesh, Telugu speaking people said that we are the ones who have invested in this infrastructure. We are the ones who have built Chennai, so it should come to us. So the problem of the big city going to which part or will go to which of the two has always been an issue. So it was an issue between Punjab and Haryana also, that who will Chandigarh belong to, number one. Second issue was the state, water. The problem with this was both the states, Punjab and Haryana, are agricultural states. Both of them are dependent on agriculture for most of the economic output. So both of them want water. And this became a problem again. Now, these issues have still not been sorted, because what has happened is solution, as you know, is Chandigarh is a common capital now. In fact, common capital, and it's a union territory as well. So Punjab doesn't have its own control. The control that they wanted, that they thought they will get, Chandigarh, when it comes to them, they were not given this control. And then the water issue has still not been resolved. You will still see time and time again there is an issue that comes in the news, that is a Satluj Yamuna link canal. Have you heard of this? Satluj Yamuna link canal. It's an issue that comes in the news time and time and time again. Now, what exactly is this? Charulata, yes, Akali is the same as today's Shiromani Akali, it is the same. So, Satluj Yamuna link canal issue is Satluj is a river that goes through. So, let's take a, I'll give you a very rough diagram, very rough diagram. So, let's say this is Satluj, goes through Punjab. This is Yamuna, goes to Haryana. Okay. Haryana said, give us some water from Satluj. Why? Because Haryana's problem is they have to provide water to Delhi also. Delhi does not have its own water source as such. So most of Delhi's water come from Haryana. So an agreement was signed that a canal will be built. So we'll build a canal like this. So water from Satluj comes into Yamuna. So far, it's an agreement of 1980. So far, this has not been done. So far, this has not been done. So the present status is something like this. This is the border between the two states. If this is the border, has built this much. Haryana has built this side of the canal. Punjab has not built this side of the canal. Punjab says we don't have enough water in Satluj. How can we give it to you? We want so much water. Our farmers will not have water. Haryana says, but we also want water. We are giving so much to Delhi also. So, in fact, this also is an issue that has not been resolved so far. Anyways, so these are some of the big issues that have happened. Chandigarh issue and also the water issue. So, this issue, these two issues become the backdrop of a problem now in Punjab. Now, Punjab since 1920s has had a party that used to be very powerful. Now they have started to decline. That party is called Akali Dal, or you call as a Shiromani Akali Dal. Akali Dal was a party that came up in 1920s. It has always been a religious party. Religious party means they have always been the party that has said that we represent the Sikh population of Punjab. They are the ones who say we control the gurdwaras as well. So they have been the one that have been at the forefront of this demand as well, that we want Chandigarh. Now, very famously, in 1973, in 1973, there was a very famous resolution called Anandpur Sahib resolution. There was a very famous resolution called Anandpur Sahib resolution. This is a resolution in 1973. It was mainly a resolution by Akali Dal only that made a list of demands. And the demands were like, give Chandigarh to us, give water to us, give jobs to us, etc., etc. Now, this resolution was taken to the government of India. Indira Gandhi did not really accept this. In this movement, when government of India was not accepting Chandigarh and water to be given, this is when, Anandpur Sahib, sorry, not Anandpur Sahib. Thanks, Sibam. So again, in this backdrop, there was a demand that started called the Khalistan movement. Now, in this movement, this demand started called the Khalistan movement. Now, what was the Khalistan movement? Khalis, as you know, is a word, or those who don't know Hindi, Khalis means pure and Stan means land. So basically, that was the idea. So this was a demand that started again. Khalistan as an idea is an old idea. It's not a new idea. Khalistan as an idea started in 1940s by a person called Jagjit Singh Chauhan. Not an important person for you, but he was the one who started this idea. But it never picked up a lot of pace. It was never something that became very famous. It was never something that people started supporting at present or in the beginning. But it was only in 1970s, 1980s that we saw the Khalistan movement started to pick up. Now, this is where the politics comes into picture. Now, please understand this. What we are going to discuss in the next 10 minutes or so is it's a very political issue, but it is all real. You can read about it in the books, and this is how the politics can ruin an entire state. So now the politics of Punjab starts. What happens is, till 1970s, Congress is not able to win any election in Punjab. Because as I said, Shiromani Akali Dal, they are the ones who win most of the elections. So they are in power. They don't have any problem. Now, in the center is the Congress party. Congress party now wants to start to make an impression. They want to gather support. They want to gather support in Punjab so that they can also come to power. They can form the government. So now the problem is, how do you come to power in a state where a party is so dominating and it is a party of the majority religion also? So Punjab is a Sikh majority religion, Sikh majority state. Shiromani Akali Dal says we are the party of the Sikh, so most of them vote for them. So they win the election. Now Congress has an idea. The idea that Congress has is, why not get a new leader in Punjab, someone who is an even bigger religious leader. Why not get a person in Punjab who is religiously even more strong, so that people who are voting in the name of religion will not vote for will not vote for Shiromani Akali Dal. They will vote for this person. Now, Indira Gandhi with her son Rajiv, or with her son Sanjay Gandhi, they started to see if they can get a new leader from Punjab. And this is why where a person comes into the picture, and this person is called Jarnail Singh Bhindrawale. This is the entry point of a new leader in Punjab called Jarnail Singh Bhindrawale. You might have heard this name multiple times. Now, who is this person? Jarnail Singh Bhindrawale was used to be a religious leader, used to be a person who was very popular. He got all the support from Congress. Now, the interesting part is he was never an officially Congress member. He was never an officially Congress member. He never said that, oh, I want to be a part of Congress. No. But everyone knew that he has all the support from Congress, because he started building a group of people. He started giving them weapons. He started attacking other people who would not listen to him. And the government did not even touch him. His strategy was that let's attack anyone who is not a Sikh in Punjab. So his attack was, and there was a very widespread violence in 1980s. The idea was, let's attack all the non-Sikh. It will do two things. One, it will force the non-Sikh to leave the states. And second, he knew that in the other states, people will then start attacking the Sikh population. But that is how human nature is. You take revenge. So he knew it will happen. But it was a part of his plan, because he knew when in the other states people attack Sikh population, they will have nowhere to go. So they will come back to Punjab only. You understand? So this was his idea that had two options, that had two things. One, if he attacks a non-Sikh population, non-Sikh will leave Punjab. And in other parts of the country, people will attack the Sikh population, so they will come back to Punjab. So his idea was, this is how we will concentrate our population in Punjab. And then we will demand that no, we want to leave the country. We don't want to be a part of this country anymore. There were also allegations that when he became too strong, he started killing a lot of public officials. Whenever anyone had a problem, anyone did anything wrong, they never went to the police. People used to come to him. People used to come to him, ask for justice. He used to say, I will deliver justice to you. I will send my people who will kill whoever has done wrong to you. Don't worry, you don't go to the government. So basically, he became this cult figure where if you have a problem, you go to him. He will give orders, everything will be sorted. No one said anything to him. Government did not say anything to him. Slowly, he became more and more powerful. Then, when the government of India realized that it is becoming slight problematic because he's going out of hands. Now it's a very typical situation of US creating Taliban and then Taliban going out of hand. It's a very similar situation to that extent. Congress creating this leader and then this leader going out of hand. There are videos of him and his entire group coming to Delhi, roaming around Delhi entire day in open trucks with AK-47 on their shoulders and no one stopping them. There are still videos where his gang of 50 to 100 people were on open trucks, open jeeps, roaming around the streets of Delhi in the beginning of in 1980s with AK-47 with them. No one was stopping them. This is how powerful he had become, that the government, knowingly or unknowingly, was supporting him. In Punjab, and there is this very famous instance of Punjab, in a district, the highest ranked police officer is the superintendent of police. SP means head of the district. In Punjab, apparently in Amritsar, there was a new SP who had said, I will stop Bhindrawale. Bhindranwale killed him outside the Golden Temple, the famous Golden Temple, and the police was so scared they could not come to take his body. The police had chief minister, in fact, called Bhindranwale that please for 15 minutes can you not attack us? 15 minutes, give us only 15 minutes, we will come, take his body and then go away. Please 15 minutes, don't do anything. And he famously said, I will give you only 10 minutes. 10 minutes, I will not shoot, come take his body and then never come back. This was the power that he had. All illegal because the government thought that they would be able to control him. Now, this is what started the problem, and I'll come back to this. This is what started the problem in Punjab. That is the beginning of how Khalistan movement became very, very, very strong there. When government of India started to realize that they can't stop him, they can't control him, he has too much of a following, he knew that the government might also attack him. So what he did was first he contacted Pakistan ISI. Pakistan was extremely happy to help him. Pakistan is like anyone who is harming the Indian government is a friend of us, no issues with that. So Pakistan ISI started giving him support. The second thing that he did was he shifted his base to the Golden Temple. Now, I hope most of you have heard of Golden Temple. If you have not seen it in photos, at least you've heard of it. If you don't know it, Golden Temple is the most religious place for the Sikh religion. So those who follow the Sikh religion, Golden Temple is the basically the highest place for worship for them. Millions of people come there every day. So what happened was he shifted his headquarters to Golden Temple. In the Golden Temple, he occupied a room and he got all his people inside the Golden Temple. There were hundreds and thousands of weapons that he kept inside the Golden Temple, bombs, every single thing that you can imagine at that time was inside the Golden Temple. Why? Because he knew number one, the government cannot attack the Golden Temple because he thought it would lead to anarchy. Government will never take such a drastic step. So he thought he is safe there. Second, he knew that he no one has the power to call him out and he's safe. It is surrounded by all the sides by him and his people. So that is what he had thought. Now the problem was government saw the situation going out of control, so much so that they were killing of thousands of people that had taken place in Punjab. Government was not doing anything about it. So government finally had to decide. Government took a call that enough is enough. We are not able to control him. It's going out of hand. And that is when the government started an operation called Operation Blue Star. Operation Blue Star was an operation where the Indian Army launched an attack on the Golden Temple with tanks and bullets and whatever you call it. The idea was to bring him out and bring his people out. Now, that was the first time and probably the last time in India's history when a religious place was attacked by the army itself. But there was no other option because he was not coming out. There was no other option to actually bring him out, and that became a huge problem. That became a huge problem. How to bring him out? So the army had to be called in. There was an operation that went on for about 3 days. Hundreds of people were killed. The army prepared for that. Army asked the people to come out, but again there were tanks that were used. Tanks went inside, so it was a horrible scenario. But eventually, the army was able to kill him. Eventually, the army was able to kill him. They were surprised by how many weapons and explosive he had actually collected in the Golden Temple. Now, there were other stories also attached to it who were supporting him, but that's not important to the story. So I will not divert what is not important because it's a long story. Cutting it short, what happened was after this operation, obviously there was a lot of anger in the population of Punjab. The anger was now religious, that government has attacked our highest religious place. So this is something that we can't tolerate because it was the government who first supported this person. If the Congress would not have supported this person, he would never have become so big. So that was the anger. Now, what happened was in that anger, people knew that something will happen, and that is when the revenge happened. The revenge was again, unfortunately, the two bodyguards of Indira Gandhi shot her The prime minister was killed. Two bodyguards were from Punjab. They were sick, so they took the revenge. And that again then started all these issues one by one. So again, since then, this movement of Khalistan has been simmering in India, in Punjab especially. That assassination of prime minister happened. The two people who did this were Sikh bodyguards from Punjab only, and that also did not end. After that, the next step was the anti-Sikh riots. Rajiv Gandhi became the prime minister. There were riots against the Sikh population. Thousands of Sikhs were killed in Punjab, in Delhi, many parts of India. They were attacked. Famously, when Rajiv Gandhi, the prime minister, was asked, "Why are you not stopping this?" He famously gave a very famous interview where he said, when a big tree falls, the earth shakes. So I can't do anything." So again, all that became very, very, I would say, strained the relationship between central government and Punjab. And this was not the end of trouble in Punjab. In fact, the real trouble in Punjab started in 1980s, and after assassination of Indira Gandhi, there was again a widespread violence in Punjab. That was a height of the Khalistan movement. How did this movement end? What was the end of this movement? So in 1980s, end, the Khalistan movement had peaked. There were killings all around. I'll tell you another interesting fact. You all have read Indian polity. You all have read Indian polity. Now, you all know president rule in a state can be for maximum how much time period? Tell me this. The president rule in a state can be for maximum how much time period? Again, under any circumstances. Under any circumstances, you all have read this. The president rule can be for how much time period? Right. So most of you know this. For maximum, the maximum time period for which the president rule can be is 3 years. 3 years. 3 years. So for example, so first, the president rule when it is imposed, it can only be for 1 year maximum. 6 months at a time, they have to redo it. But again, maximum they can do it for 1 year. But if they want to extend, they can extend, but they can do it for how many years? Maximum 3 years, not more than that. Maximum 3 years is not allowed. However, do you know in Punjab, Punjab is a state where the president rule went on for more than 3 years. Again, understand, Constitution of India says that the president rule maximum can be for 3 years only. But do you know the president rule in Punjab went on for over 3 years? Close to 5 years, there was no government in Punjab. Why? Because it was just not possible to hold elections. It was just not possible to hold elections in Punjab. That was such a bad law and order. And how was it possible? For Punjab, especially, the constitution was amended. Just to extend president rule in Punjab, the constitution was amended multiple times to allow this exception. First, read about this if you want to. 48th Amendment. 48th Amendment of the Constitution was introduced just to write, it was in 1985, just to write that in Punjab, especially, the president rule can go after 3 years as well. They again had to amend it because they amended it one time. Then they again had to amend it. Next, 59th Amendment. They again amended this to make sure that president rule goes on even further in Punjab. So again, that is the problem that we had been facing in Punjab. A lot of law and order issue, 1980s, and it all became out of control. Who controlled it? Probably the most famous IAS or IPS officer of India's history. One of the most famous IPS officers, you might have heard of him, KPS Gill. If you if you're interested in reading about some IPS officers, when you get some time, read about KPS Gill, one of the one of the biggest or one of the most famous IPS officers in India's history. He was instrumental in cutting down violence in Assam. When Assam was at the peak of its violence, there was Assam Accord signed, and there was so much issue in Assam about illegal immigrants. People were being killed. He was the one who stopped violence in Assam. So he was specially called by the government to go to Punjab. So he went to Punjab, and he was the one who basically brought the situation under control. But again, that period of 1980s was a big period of protests, killings, high profile people being killed. In fact, Punjab is one of the few states in India where the sitting chief minister was killed. Do you know that? The CM was also killed in this violence. Even the chief minister was not safe. Who was the chief minister? Beyant Singh. Beyant Singh was the chief minister. Even he was killed. So that was the amount of violence. Just understand, even the chief minister is not safe. The prime minister assassinated, chief minister killed. So what was the situation of law and order in that state? That was the peak of the Khalistan movement in India. Now, this is the story that I already told you. And then the KPS Gill era started. Now, in this story, after 1990, now the situation starts to change. After 1990, the situation is we had multiple groups that came in Punjab. Many of the groups have the name Khalistan somewhere here or there. There are hundreds of these groups. Like there is something called Khalistan Liberation Force, there's something called Khalistan Commando Force. All these basically came up. Now, what happened is the reality is that after 1990 began, in India, the demand for Khalistan has almost evaporated. It has almost evaporated because what happened was when the government became so strict against this violence, against this movement, a lot of people who were supporters of this Khalistan movement actually started to leave the country. Even today, when you see in the news that someone demands Khalistan, they are not from India, they have all gone outside. So the interesting part or the good part is in the last 20, 25, even 30 years, people in India mostly would not demand that we want Khalistan in Punjab. There are obviously some exceptions here and there. You'll always see one person going up and saying, I want it. That is a separate matter altogether. But the idea of Khalistan now exists outside India. So all the support that people get of the Khalistan movement, the news that comes in, it's either population living in Canada or population living in UK that demand that we want Khalistan. Now the population living in Punjab as such does not demand it. That movement has dropped down, at least in India. Again, there are exceptions here and there. They will always be in some cases. But the movement has died down in India, but the movement now is outside. So now why is it in the news? Why are we reading about this now? A few things. First, in Canada, for example, there are people who still keep on bringing this issue up. For example, what happened was, Megha, no, remembering this exactly is not essential. You just have to understand the story. Now, what happened was recently, a couple of years back, in Canada, there's a place called Brampton. There's a place called Brampton in Canada. Now, this is where the role of Canada starts now. So we studied about the role that happened within India, the issue, and now we are focusing on the role of Canada here because Canada has become a big issue here. Canada has become a big part of the Khalistan movement. So now what happens? There's a place called Brampton in Canada. In Brampton, there was recently a referendum held. A referendum was held where people asked, do you want a separate Khalistan or not? Do you want a separate Khalistan or not? Now, it's very laughable. The people who voted are not Indians. Khalistan is not being created in Canada. If you want to create Khalistan in Canada, then go ahead with this. It's like me saying, let's have a vote. Do you think New York should be the new capital of US or not? Let's have a referendum. Let's decide if New York deserves to be the capital. It would not have any impact. We are not in US. It is not in our control. So they had a referendum. They said that, okay, let's have a referendum. Obviously, people said we want to have a Khalistan. So Indian government said, great. Then ask Canadian government. They have a very large area anyway. Canada is a huge country. They will carve out something called a Khalistan. No issues with that. So first this happened. Indian government did not react to it that much. That was fine. Indian government did not overreact. The overreaction came in after something else happened. Next thing that happened was there was a rally carried out with there a statue of Indira Gandhi. So there was statue of Indira Gandhi. Basically, it was her assassination scene. There was a lady wearing a white sari with blood spots, and there were two bodyguards who were shooting at her. Something like this, like a statue was built. So this big statue was built, statue of Indira Gandhi assassination, and this was basically carried out across a town in Brampton. Now this became very problematic. India objected to it. India said, how can you show a prime minister of a country's assassination in your country, openly people taking it out on the roads? Would Canada do the same if it was an American president? Would Canada allow it? American president have also been killed. Abraham Lincoln was killed. Kennedy was killed. Would America allow this if someone had made a statue of John F. Kennedy being killed and then carried it everywhere? No, they would not allow it. But they allowed it with India. So India raised an objection that how can you allow this? So Canada's answer was, as always, freedom of speech, my dear. Freedom of speech. Freedom of speech, freedom of expression. You can do whatever you want in our country. Now, that became a big problem here. That a country that calls itself a friend of ours, that calls itself a democratic country like ours, is now giving support to these people who are actually taking out the statue in the name of freedom of expression. That becomes a big problem. That becomes a big problem. So even today, Khalistan movement exists in a dormant manner, but it exists mainly outside India, not within India as such. There has always been a support of ISI to it. ISI has been trying to support it in whatever way that they want. And the Canadian angle has complicated the things in a bit. Now, as I said, the Canadian angle is very interesting. Why? Why would Canada allow this? Why exactly would Canada allow this? So it's interesting to see why is it that Canada would allow or take such a risk of angering India. India is in at the end of the day a friend of Canada. We are a liberal democratic country like theirs. We have common adversaries such as China. So India, Canada historically have had fine relationship. So the question is, why would Canada go all the way to anger India just because they want to please the Sikh population? Any idea why would they do that? Why would they do that? Votes is one way to look at it. Yes. So I'll tell you a very interesting fact here. The interesting fact is, do you know? Okay, let's take a random guess. Let's take a random guess. Don't Google, it will ruin the fun. Don't Google, just tell me what percentage of Canada's population do you think is Sikh? What percentage of Canada's population is Sikh? What do you think? Uh, People are saying 78, 29, 20%. Guys, you're getting too overboard. So Canada's entire population, out of it, the Sikh population is only 2%. Only 2%. Only 2%. Despite what you see in the news, despite you thinking that entire Punjab is in Canada now, despite you thinking, oh, Canada is now the second Punjab, as many of you have written in the chat, the reality is far from that. The reality is right now in the entire population of Canada, it's only 2% Sikh. Just for comparison, just for comparison, in India also Sikh population is close to this 1.2, 1.3%, not more than that, but percentage wise, there's not much of a difference. So now the question is, if it is such a small population, then why would the government, or I won't say government, I'll say a party, why would a party in power go all the way to please them? That no, 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 they should do anything that they want. We will not stop them. Why would they do that? This is where one more very interesting factor comes into the picture. Yes, Rohani. So there is one more very interesting factor that you often ignore. So what we ignore here is the role of cash. Understand this. In today, let's take an example of India. You go to any place now, you use the UPI thing, right? You pay online, you go to vegetable vendor, fruit, even if you go to buy roadside stalls, you pay by UPI mostly. There is still one place you don't use UPI. There's still one place you don't use UPI. Where? Temple, Gurdwara, church, mosque, where you still don't use UPI. You still pay by cash there. If you want to donate money, most of the people still today, when you go to religious places, you pay by cash, right? So what happens again? There are always exceptions. There are some of the temples that have started using the UPI. I know that. But even today, most of them have this big donation box and you donate the money wherever you want. Now, this is unaccounted cash. This is unaccounted cash. Cash where you don't have to keep a record of it. This becomes the USP of Gurdwaras in Canada. So in Canada, the government or the political party knows that if they get that donation, that can be helpful for them. Number one, I'm not saying it's crores of dollars. It's not like that, but it is substantial amount of money for at least a local MP. If they get this donation, it is substantial amount of money. Number one, so this cash donation becomes very interesting part of this politics in Canada. Secondly, in any country, especially when people migrate to a new country, they always vote collectively. That is seen whenever you go outside, you are a minority. You want to make sure your vote has value. So, usually, what happens is in these places, it will be decided in, let's say, a temple, that who do we vote for together. They will make an announcement that everyone should vote for him. So, everyone collectively votes. So, the vote has a lot more value. When you vote collectively as one single group, your vote has a lot more value because it is sure that whoever you support will win the election no matter what. These are the factors because of which in Canada and in Canadian politics, Sikh population has an unproportional high influence. They should not have had that influence because just 2% of population is still very low. But they still have so much influence over the Canadian politics because of this, the cash component that comes in and the strength that they vote collectively. So this is why this it becomes problematic. Now, I'll show you one more example just to show the hypocrisy of Canada here or what they have been doing. Have you heard of something called Kanishka air bombing? Have you heard of this? Okay, some people yes, some people no. Okay, okay, I'll tell you what this is. So, Kanishka air bombing, basically what happened was 1985, 1985 there was an Air India plane bomb exploded. It was a plane coming from Canada. So basically, it was a plane that had took off from Canada, and from Canada apparently it was basically supposed to eventually. So it was the plan was it will go to London, then it will come to Delhi, Bombay. That was the route of the plane. In between this route, the plane exploded. The plane exploded over Ireland. There was a bomb. All of the people died. More than 300 people died in this plane. There was an investigation done. There was a terror organization that was behind this. The terror organization was Babbar Khalsa, the organization that has been supporting Khalistan. Now, when investigation happened, now there was something very interesting that happened here. When it was investigated, it was found out that the Canadian police was at fault 100%. 100% they were at fault. So what happened was, when the investigation went on, it was proven that what happened was, when you go into the airport, I don't know how many of you have noticed this. When you go to the airport, You can't come out now without proper checking. It's not like you can come in and go out also. No. For example, you go into the airport, you miss a flight, you can't just walk out. There will be a proper checking done. Why are you going out? There is a special exit path. Policemen will take you, only then you can exit. Because otherwise, you will just come, leave your luggage, and then go away. Something wrong can happen. So if you enter the airport, you can't leave. You either take a flight, that is fine. But if you want to leave because let's say you forgot something, don't want to take a flight, you want to go back, you have to do a proper security check. The police will check up, and then only you will be allowed to leave. In this case, what happened in Canada? The person came, left the luggage, and then left. He gave the luggage in the plane, then he said, "Okay, I'm not going, I'm going." Okay, fine. When the luggage was checked, there was a beep sound in the machine. No one opened up to check. In fact, even before that, there were some people who had come to Canadian police saying that we are hearing rumors that someone is planning an air bomb attack. They never took it seriously. No one took it seriously. The bomb exploded, over 300 people died. After all the investigations, only one person was charged, only one person. And that person also was let go later on. After a few years, he was let go later on. He promised to the government, if you let me go, I will give you more information. Government said okay, and then he said, okay, tata, bye bye, I'm leaving. And nothing happened. So no one is in the prison for over 300 people that died. It was a plane that started from Canada. It exploded over Ireland just because it was an Air India plane. Now imagine the same situation. Imagine if a plane took off from Delhi to Canada, exploded somewhere in the middle, and Indian government did not punish anyone. Now imagine that scenario. What would India be called? What would India's name be? What pressure will India now put, or US now put on India? What pressure other countries will put on India? Just imagine that. And now imagine if a West country does it, what happens? The people who died there were all Canadian citizens. The only difference was these were Canadian citizens who had taken citizenship after coming from India. So they were mostly sick people who had gone to Canada, taken citizenship. They were the ones who died. Canada did not even bother. So now when Canada tells us, oh, you are interfering, you are trying to kill a terrorist in our country, we will not allow that. Just imagine from what position are they talking? They are the ones who could not even investigate a case of an airplane attack. They could not even punish anyone. And now, when the Indian government may or may not target a terrorist, they have a problem with that. So that's the hypocrisy the Western countries come from. And this is not an old thing. I'll tell you something very interesting. One other interesting fact I left out was when this Kanishka air bombing plane happened. Do you know who was the prime minister? Prime minister was senior Mr. Trudeau. He was the father of Justin Trudeau, who was the prime minister. So this family is has a special relationship with India. Justin Trudeau, who is the present prime minister, his father was the prime minister. Only the name of the plane was Kanishka. That's a practice that used to happen. Planes were also named, like ships are named. Planes used to be named earlier as well. So the father of Justin Trudeau was the prime minister. He did not take any action because for most of the people who were investigated were found to be at fault were the people from the Sikh population, were the people from the Babbar Khalsa group. Again, they did not take any action. Same is being done by his son now. His son, what did he do, Mr. Trudeau? Interestingly, in 2018, he came to India. Now, please understand this is important. In 2018, he came to India. When he came to India, prime ministers, president don't come alone. They bring a bunch of people with them, other ministers, friends, family. So he came in India with a person called Jaspal Atwal. Now, who is he? This is the person. He is a person who was involved in shooting of a Punjab minister in 1986. And not just allegation, he was proven guilty in the court. It's not that it was an allegation. Case was running on him, a case closed. He was found guilty and he went to the jail also. But he ran away to Canada. He settled there in Canada. And look at the audacity of the man. He came to India with the Prime Minister on an official visit. So, Prime Minister Trudeau, when he came to India, he brought with him a person who was involved in killing of a minister in India. It's you can't say the Prime Minister did not know. If you're the Prime Minister or the President, you would know everyone who's traveling with you. But if you still choose to bring him to a country where he is convicted of trying to kill a minister, that means there's something wrong in your thinking. In this During this visit, Mr. Trudeau requested to meet Punjab Chief Minister. He said that I'll meet the Punjab Chief Minister, and Punjab Chief Minister denied. He said, I don't have time. I will not meet you. He said, I will only meet you if you leave this person back in Canada. I will not meet you. So Punjab Chief Minister refused to meet him as well. So that is again why Canada-India relationship has deteriorated so much, and it's connected to our internal security. India, time and time again, has been saying that we are not interfering with what's happening in Canada. But if what is happening in Canada is impacting our internal security, that becomes an issue. Remember when the last issue happened, the farmer protest happened the last time around in 2019, 2020, when the farmer protest happened? Do you remember? Now, when those protests were happening, only one only one foreign country leader spoke up about it. That was Prime Minister of Canada. You usually don't speak about internal politics of any other country. Why would you? But Canadian Prime Minister spoke that, oh, government of India should listen to the farmers. I think they should have a consultation. And no one asked you, man. But he said that no, they should listen. Why? Because he thinks it is their vote bank. He thinks that is his vote bank. If he supports in favor of the farmers, he thinks that I will get votes here. So that is a big problem because of this vote bank politics. We have a situation now where a very important country, so important as a G7 country, is playing with our internal security matters, is giving encouragement to those who are involved in terrorist activities against India. That has become a problem. As I told you, referendum was conducted in Canada. They did not stop it. We asked them to stop it. They did not stop it. It was organized by Khalistani separatist group called Stick for Justice. But again, they said no, it's freedom of expression. They're allowed to do whatever they want. Canada has even rejected the call by India whenever we say that please don't have these kind of activities. It harms our interest. Money is coming into India illegally. They don't do this. And a lot of wanted terrorists, lot of wanted gangsters in India have also moved to Canada in the past few years. That also raises a big question mark over what exactly is Canada's intention. Why are they supporting all these illegal activities? If they don't expect us to hide any criminal that is wanted in Canada, how do they expect the same to happen? Now, one more thing here, the relationship strained even further. Now, I'm sure all of you have read this. Recently, there were allegations from Canadian Prime Minister that India is involved in killing of a citizen in Canada. That led to both the countries reducing their diplomatic staff also. India said that we will reduce the diplomatic staff of Canada from our embassy. So in the Canadian embassy in India, there are many, many diplomats, many more than what are required. So government said we will cut down their strength. Government of India issued a notice saying that these people should go back. So the relationship between the two sides is not great right now. And it is basically because it involves India's internal security matter, where a country that we thought is friendly is kind of interfering. The other problem is when Canada recently, I don't know you issued this or you heard this or not, Canadian Prime Minister spoke in the Parliament that we have proof that Indian government is involved in killing of a person in India. or in Canada rather, the Indian government is carrying out an assassination in Canada. The biggest problem was Canadian Prime Minister took a name of a raw agent. Please understand, Canadian Prime Minister named a raw agent on television. Now, please understand, when you name an intelligence agent, means you are ending his career. The entire point of being an intelligence agent is that no one knows about you, that you are the intelligence agent. And now a prime minister of a country on national television is naming a raw agent, saying that this raw agent in India is responsible, in Canada is responsible for it. So when you name an intelligence agent, means you are ruining the entire career of, this is something the countries never do. This is a common diplomatic understanding of each other, that if you have an issue, talk to the government, don't go or do a press conference. If you have a problem, talk to the government, resolve it. But him coming out in the open, speaking in the parliament, talking about a raw agent without any proof, that angered India even more. So that has again led to a lot of fissures in the relationship between India and Canada. So far, it doesn't seem to be improving, but this is where we are right now. This was the big Khalistan issue that exists even today. So what we'll do is we will continue the second part, because it's another big issue, the Jammu Kashmir insurgency. We will continue from here tomorrow. In the last few minutes, I will take up the question that you have, and I'm glad to see most of you had been keeping quiet in the last half an hour when this topic was going on. So I really appreciate it. Now, whatever question you have for 10, 12 minutes, you can ask. From Jammu Kashmir insurgency, its history, that we'll be discussing tomorrow. That's again a long, detailed topic that you all need to understand. Okay, let's take up a few questions. Ankush, sleeper cell agents is something that you see in the news, sleepers in the movies. Sleeper cells are those terrorists that are not active, that are told to live a normal life. Whenever they are required, then they are called that now you have to involve yourself again in terror activities. Devyani Singh, is it true that there is major truck trade from Punjab to Canada that funds Khalistan movement there? See, Devyani, major or not, there is a drug trade, but again, I would advise you, whenever you are making these assumptions that there's a drug trade, etc., please make sure that you only write such thing in the exam if you have a specific proof of that. So if it has been proven in the court, then write that. If it has been proven in the report, then write that report. If the government says, then write this. Don't write because you have read it somewhere. This read it somewhere is a dangerous thing. So if you have read a report of the government or Supreme Court saying there is drug trade between India and Canada, only then write it. So far, the government has not accepted this. Okay. Then I have a question from Gunjan. Several Deshbhaks working silently killing India's separatists. I would stay quiet on that. Lakshya saying, can spies change their name and fake ID? Lakshya, if they do that, why would they tell us? If they tell us, then it's not of any use, right? So they do this in movies. In real life, if they do, then why would we get to know about it? Then Srushti is saying, what question can come from Khalistan movement? Srushti, I'll tell you some questions in the end of the class tomorrow when we end the chapter. But yes, questions can come in. For example, what are the challenges the government of India is facing with respect to the Khalistan movement? The reasons behind it, the government's attempt at stopping it, role of Canada, all these kind of questions can be asked. Then Vaishali is saying, what measures India is taking to restrain Canada and the matters? So, Vaishali, we can't restrain another sovereign country at the end of the day. We can take steps on our own end. As I told you, we are taking steps at our own end in the sense that we are trying to reduce the size of their embassy, restrict some trade here and there. But again, as a sovereign country, which is not very small, you can't really force Canada to do something. Maybe you can lobby through US, but there's nothing that you can force onto them as such. Then Parveen, that raw agent, nothing happened to him. He's back in India now, looking for some other posting. Maybe prepare for UPSC once again. Sakshi is saying, why not we arrested him when he was proven guilty in India? Sakshi, when someone comes with the prime minister or the president of some other country, they are given diplomatic immunity. So you can't just arrest them randomly. Shweta, it really depends on question to question. Thank you, Garima. Thank you. Aryan is saying, why did Canadian president bring Atwal him with him to India? He would know. He's a businessman. Businessmen usually do take these trips. Businessmen, for example, when prime minister also, our prime minister goes, he will take some businessmen with him to sign some deals with the other countries. So it's not a very uncommon practice. Bhimar is saying, what is the importance of Canada for us? It is a part of G7 low population. Bhimar, I won't say it is. Every country has its importance. Every rich country especially has its importance because in rich countries, you can sell your products. Otherwise, if you see India Canada trade is not very high, so it's not that important. We do have students going there for some universities, cheaper education slightly, but it's not very strategically important country for us as such. Lakshya saying these raw are spies, so a fake ID must be there for them for security reasons. Lakshya, again, as I said, no information about spies or raw working of raw is given to anyone. What we watch in the movies is in the movies. If we already know that a raw agent has fake IDs, then what is the use of them getting fake IDs? Are you able to understand? So again, no one knows. Let's restrict that to the movies itself. Gundan is saying why Western countries are so stuck to the LDC nations. Not stuck. Everyone wants to help a poor person. I won't say they are stuck. Sakshi is saying, do we have any webinars today? Sakshi, no. Webinars are Mondays and Thursdays, not today. You're welcome, Suomu. I'm glad that you understood the topic. Yes, madam, you are free to leave if you don't have any questions. Parveen is saying, is it India? And it is true. Is it true India has cut down all diplomatic relationship with Canada and bring its ambassador back to? No, 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 no. It's not true that we have cut all diplomatic relations. There was a time that for some time India was not issuing visas to Canada, but that has resumed now. See, no two countries cut down their relationship entirely unless something very extreme happens. Even right now, there are back channel talks happening. There will be negotiation and diplomacy going on at the back channel. So, no two countries just cut off the relationship. Yes, it will take some time to improve, but it's not that we have cut off the relationship. Ankush saying, what was the actual motive of Kanishka air bombing? Was completed investigation. Ankush, whatever is the motive of any terror organization do what? They spend terror. So they basically kind of force the people of Canada not to go to India, cut off their ties with India, ruin India-Canada relationship. That is what. Bhimra is saying, is it good for India if we are not good with Canada? Bhimra, no, it's good. You need to have good relationship with every country, if possible. Simple. Garima Singh, what was that you told about Babbar Khalsa? Garima, Babbar Khalsa is a terror organization that was responsible for Kanishka air bombing. Pavitra Singh, how is internal security connected with Canada? Pavitra, internal security is connected with Khalistan issue. In Khalistan issue, the role of Canada is important. So the topic is not India-Canada relationship. The topic is Khalistan. If the topic would have been India-Canada relationship, then we would have talked about trade and everything else. Yes, Megha, you can leave the class if you don't have any questions. Then Preetham is saying, who is behind the Nijjar killing in Canada? Preetham, I wish I knew, man. If I knew, I would have told you, but I'm not at that level so far. Maybe file an RTI, you can get to know, and if you do let me know as well. You're welcome, Lakshya. Yes, Sapna, bye. Aryan is saying, will the veto power help India in any way in this matter? No, Aryan, veto power only helps you when you go ahead and have any issue in the UN. Veto power is what? Veto power is in the UN Security Council when they're discussing an issue. You can veto it, you can say no. So outside the UN, veto power has no concept. Yes, Preetham, I know Canada government blames Indian government. That's what I was saying. They have blamed Indian government without providing any proof of that. Ankush saying it's externally aided internal issue. Yes, Ankush. Bhimra is saying if a country involves in our internal matter, it is a testing of sovereignty of a country. Should we punish Canada? Bhimra, my question is how will you punish Canada? Is Canada coming to your court? Will you say Canada go to jail? Will you say Canada put your ears and then do some sit-ups? How will you punish Canada? When you say punish Canada, what do you mean? Do you mean go and conduct airstrikes in Canada? How does that work? Somo is saying, what is SEC Eco 2 discussion that will start at 8:30? I'm not sure. I think that is a discussion of your economics prelims test series paper. Somo, I think that the name that you're saying, SEC Eco 2, means it's a discussion of economics paper that happened in the test series. Shom is saying, what happened, what after Kanishka bombing blast, should any action be taken upon this group, Babbar Khalsa? Shubham, India has already banned this group. Now, who did this? It happened in Canada, so Canadian government has to take action. India has already banned the terror group. Sakshi is saying, for current affairs, I'll have separate notebook or a night with this topic only. Sakshi, it depends on you. If you want to have a separate notebook, have it. You want one notebook with 10 topics as boys do, then you can do that as well. So again, having separate notebook or not having separate notebook will not affect your chances in UPSC, trust me. Bhimra is saying put sanction. You putting sanction putting sanctions is not for every country. You put sanctions or your sanctions are important only when you know other country is dependent on you for trade. Only when you know other country is dependent on your currency. With Canada, that is not true. So putting sanctions will not really have any impact. Simam, we will discuss tomorrow some question on Khalistan movement. Don't worry. Once we end the terror related chapter. Ankush saying, can UPSC give question on insurrection? So, Ankush, insurrection, yes, they can. They can ask you the definition of insurrection. How is it different from Naxalism? They can. It's a part of the syllabus, so they can. You too, Sakshi. Okay, perfect. So, these were all the questions that were given to me. For those who are asking about questions on or the kind of questions from Khalistan, we will discuss this tomorrow. As you know, the terror chapter has not ended. Terror chapter, the module for terrorism will end tomorrow. So once it ends tomorrow, we will discuss what are the issues that we can have, what are the kind of question that we can have. Okay, so these are the questions that were given to me. You can still ask questions to the SME. SME is still here, who will resolve your questions for a few more minutes. We will resume from here tomorrow. Tomorrow, again, as I said, the terror part will be resumed. We will discuss about J&K insurgency, what are the issues that we have, and then if the time allows us, we'll start a discussion with the northeast part of India, the issues that we have there. Thank you so much for joining in. Again, the class is still live. You can ask your question to SME. I'll see you tomorrow, 5 p.m. Have a good day ahead. Bye-bye. Jai Hind.